Hi, Peter. Good. I didn't hear you. You know, that's a good question. I have not been following. Yeah. My kids have been out for quite a while. Mm-hmm. You okay? Whenever you're ready.
Thursday, November 9th, we're going to call together the City of Tarpon Springs Code Enforcement Board, 2 p.m. We ask that all cell phones be placed to silent. And call to order, please.
Mrs. Archer?
Here.
Ms. Dabbs?
Here.
Ms. Wade?
Here.
Mr. Weeks?
Here.
Mr. Kramer?
Here.
Mr. Robinson?
Here.
Mrs. Norfleet?
Here.
Now, complete the roll call.
We ask that Mr. Trask please lead us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, send down your blessing on this meeting of the Code Enforcement Board. Give the board members a clear sense of duty and lead them to a faithful discharge of the same. Direct them in their deliberations at this meeting so that all things may be done to the glory of thy name and the welfare of the people of the city of Tarpon Springs. This we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first thing on our agenda, we need to elect a new chairperson, and we ask Mr. Trask is going to handle that.
So, board members, you remember that our former chairman, Carl DeMatsis, was termed out. That was his last meeting last month, and so we need to elect a new chairman. The vice chairman right now is sitting in the seat handling the meeting, but as soon as the chairman is appointed, we'll change seats. So the way this works then, it could be a nomination from the floor. And once that nomination is made, if there are no other nominations, there will be a vote on that nomination. If there are more than one, then I'm going to suggest that we do a ballot vote that all of you sign your names on, and we can do it that way as well. So at this point, Madam Vice Chair, we need a nomination from the floor for chairman.
I nominate Ms. Archer.
Okay, are there any other nominations?
Yes, I missed you wanted to.
Wanda Vicasi?
Left it out from under you.
Sounds good.
What's your name?
Thomas Weeks.
I'd like to nominate Thomas Weeks.
Any other nominations? Okay, so what we're going to do here is that we're going to, if you can just take a piece of paper. Bobby, do you have a ballot down there, small pieces of paper that we can use? No?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to rip up a couple of pieces of paper. We're going to do a ballot vote. I want to make sure that everybody that votes, you're going to either write Archer or Weeks on it, and then you're also going to sign your name. I'm sorry?
Mr. Chairman, could the people stand who have been nominated?
Yes, Mrs. Archer has been nominated. She's sitting right here, and Mr. Weeks. Okay. Are you cutting them up, or am I cutting them up? Okay.
Oh, I thought they were just going to write on paper and I was going to collect them real quick.
No, we're going to do separate ballot votes. So I'm going to rip them up real quick, unless everybody's already started on their own. So because of the sunshine law, it requires you to initial or sign after you place the person's name on the ballot. So Weeks or Archer? I'm sorry, do I need to rip up some more? I thought Mrs. Dabbs had a piece. You have a piece of paper?
Yes, I've already given.
Okay, I didn't see you, okay. So you just want to pass them down to me, I'll give them to Bobby? And Bobby, if you could announce who that person's going to be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, okay.
Mrs. Archer is now our chair.
Okay, I want to make sure now that, did you get a initial or a signature on each one of those so we can make sure that you can keep those for,
Yes, sir, I'll make sure.
okay. All right, Mrs. Archer, congratulations. Now we need to appoint a vice chair since Mrs. Archer was our vice chair. So we need a nomination from the floor for vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Weeks, please.
Okay, any other nominations from the floor? Okay, no other nominations from the floor. All in favor of Mr. Weeks being your vice chair, I would say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Weeks, you're now our vice chair. So that means that you'll be filling in the seat when Mrs. Archer is absent from the meeting. Okay. Okay, Mrs. Archer, if you could read the hearing in process, hearing procedure, and then we'll go ahead and swear everybody in.
It is the intention of this board to promote, protect, and improve the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Tarpon Springs by providing an equitable, effective, and inexpensive method of enforcing various codes within the city of Tarpon Springs. Any aggrieved party may appeal a final administrative order of this board to the circuit court. Such appeal shall be filled within 30 days of the execution of the order to be appealed. Florida Statutes 286.0105 requires any party appealing a decision of this board to have a record of proceedings to support such appeal. The procedure of this board is as follows. First, the city, its witnesses, and exhibits, after which the alleged violator is able to ask the city's witnesses any specific questions regarding their testimony. Secondly, the alleged violator is allowed to make a presentation and present his or her witnesses and exhibits. Then the city can question the alleged violator's witnesses. After both rounds of testimony, both on the part of the city and the part of the alleged violator, each party is asked to give a closing argument, first by the city and then by the alleged violator. After those three steps are taken, this board will close the public hearing portion of the case to discuss it and take appropriate action. Before we begin the public hearings, we will have all potential witnesses stand up and be sworn in by the secretary of the board.
Anyone that's going to speak, stand up, raise your right hand, and be sworn under oath. Anyone that's going to speak. Thank you.
Wait, 1 second, give me a second. Ready? Do you swear the testimony you swear the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Ready. Thank you. You seated?
Thank you, everyone. So, it's okay. I'm going to give you this. So, we just have Mr. Gaffson go ahead and start his cases. Oh, this is
Gaston,
Shannon.
you ready?
Go for it.
This is repeat violator, case number 15-422, and the new case of 17-8000630 of 1411 Silver Oak Drive. I'm Shannon Brewer, currently employed by the City of Tarpon Springs. I'm an ISA certified arborist, license number FL9221-A. I'm also an FNGLA certified horticultural professional, license number H978402. All the photographs and exhibits that were given to the violator are exact copies of what is being presented to the board. All the notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and the tax collector databases. All NOVs and NOHs are sent certified return receipt first class mail. Please accept all exhibits into the record as evidence.
Okay, we need to find out, is Miss Judith Pettit here? Mrs. Pettit? Oh, okay. So, Madam Chair, there with no respondent here to object to the evidence, it would be appropriate to receive it into evidence. So you just need to acknowledge that.
We will receive any pictures or anything,
Documents or
documents into evidence at this time.
Okay.
On October 20th, 2017, I conducted an inspection of 1411 Silver Oak Drive based on a complaint from a neighbor. Upon inspection, I found a dead palm with a hollow cavity located between the sidewalk and the roadway on the north side of the property, laurel oaks with severe decay, large hollow limbs, and a hollow trunk. Significant amount of limbs fell in the storm, causing a large amount of debris. The debris is impeding sidewalk use on the north and east side of the property. Chinaberry trees on the south side are falling apart, and one is leaning over the fence into a neighbor's yard. Chinaberries have weak wood and are poisonous, and any animal and child who eats the berries can go into cardiac arrest. They are currently on the city's exotic and invasive list. A large stump is left from a previously fallen tree, which is now trying to regrow on the south side of the property. The chinaberry behind it and next to the house has soil weakness due to both trees growing in each other's root plate. Hanging over the sidewalk are limbs, which the industry calls hangers. These are limbs over 2 inches in diameter, still hung up in the tree, and are unable to fall on their own because they are caught up in other branches. The hangers in these trees are between 3 and 4 inches in diameter. The hangers are roughly 10 feet above sidewalk, and they could fall at any time. On the north side is a dead, hollow tree that has insect damage, severe structural damage, has cracked at the base, and is leaning onto another dead tree. These are both next to the sidewalk and could easily snap at any moment and could potentially fall on the sidewalk. A 5-foot-tall stump from a previously broken tree is located on the north side next to the sidewalk. The structural integrity has been compromised by insects and decay. It is upon a small raised area, making it even more dangerous to pedestrians. I've included pictures of a close-up of a trunk. This is indicative of most of the trees on the property. It is difficult to see in some pictures because of vines, small pepper trees, and suckers that are covering the trunks. After making the level 1 visual inspection, I concluded that all the trees are hazardous to persons and property. The property is not in compliance with City Ordinance 13302. On 10/23/20, the NOH repeat violator mailed certified first class. On 10/28, sign posted affidavit of posting signed. On 11/06/17 was the final inspection. The mail returned, green card and first class NOH returned, undeliverable, unable to forward. That's all I have at this time.
We're still looking at the documents.
They are currently, of the previous case, drawing daily fines of a 13302 violation.
When Greg Dobbins was here, they had a prior tree. Currently, an unrelated tree to any of the ones that Shannon brought.
Shannon, do you have that case number so we can make sure that it was in the past 5 years?
15-422.
And the board found a violation of section 133.02, in that case 15-422?
Yes,
Okay. And that's the basis of the repeat violation today?
yes.
Questions of the...
Do you on the board have any questions?
I
to
do.
ask?
Does anyone live in the structure?
No, nobody, we've been dealing with,
No electricity, no water.
I do not believe, no, there's definitely,
In the, I haven't seen the documents yet. The owner lives,
unknown where we've been attempting to find.
Shannon, when was the date of the first inspection?
For me, it was 10/20/2017.
And it's still in non-compliance?
Correct.
Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, when was the first violation? It says she's repeat.
Let me
It's
find it.
probably in here, but I can't.
August 26th of 2015 was the original, not any of the ones Shannon just brought up, but the tree issue from a couple of years ago was in August of 2015 for a single tree. I think it was on.
Was it vacant then too?
There's a long story with this property and the homeowner. At that time, it was not vacant. It was vacated shortly after that, and we, like I said, we've been attempting to locate her, but we've got no response from any email, mail.
I was looking for tax payment.
Surprisingly, it's still being paid. It's also not due until the end of the month.
But from last year,
Yeah.
current.
If there's no other questions, you can entertain a motion.
Ms. Archer, would you pass the rest of those papers?
I wonder how it'll be. Sorry.
Good idea.
Some of what I was.
Tree fell by the house. Is there any damage to the foundation of the house?
The tree is actually leaning up into the other one, and
Okay.
it's heading towards the house.
Thank you.
Yeah, it would be good because it's.
Homestead status changed last year.
That's correct. It's one.
Are there any costs of prosecution?
$120.50.
Okay,
Exhibit 5.
and Madam Secretary, you'll take those into evidence, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Officer Gaston, do you have any recommendation on this? Oh, I'm sorry. Shannon?
The recommendation is that we should abate the hazards immediately and bring the property into compliance.
Can you say that again?
To abate the property,
Yeah, put the microphone a little, some of us are pretty old here and we're pretty deaf.
sorry. We should abate the property and bring the, abate the hazards and bring the property into compliance regarding the trees.
Meaning what? Abate the property. Can you define that?
Go
for
and
me?
remove them.
At city.
Correct.
No, we're not, the city does not go in and
No.
clean these trees off. No, we don't go on private property to take trees down. So, you can go through the process of finishing out this, and if you feel the need, and if there is a request for the city to abate it, you can make a recommendation to that. You can't order the city to do it, but let's finish the case on the repeat violator first. So you have a form motion in your red folder for repeat violations. The testimony that you've heard so far is that the original inspection took place as of October 20th, 2017. That's important for you to know for your motion. The affidavit of prosecution of costs that's been testified to, $120.50. That's important for your motion. And also the code violation that's been cited, 133.02, that's important for your motion. Since this is a repeat violation, there's no need to give them a compliance date. It's, as a repeat, the fine begins to run on the day of the inspection. But you're gonna have to, for the new board members, you're gonna have to set forth the dollar amount of the fine. For a repeat violation, you can order up to $500 a day fine for each day that the violation continues to exist.
Would anyone like to make a motion on this?
I'll make a motion. I move that based on the testimony, the evidence, facts presented by the law, that the respondent was in violation of City Code 133.02 of this, of the Tarpon Springs City Code from the initial inspection date was 10/20?
Yes.
Thank you. And that such property brought into compliance and a fine of $25 a day shall be imposed and compliance is met, until compliance is met. In addition, I move that the city be awarded, I should have my,
170.
120? $120.50 for cost it incurred in processing this case, prosecuting this case.
I'm new. What good does that do?
We need a second for the motion before we can discuss it. So is there anyone that wants to second that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. So Madam Chair, you would take discussion at this point on that motion.
Yes, ma'am.
If we cannot contact the owner, what good does it do to levy other than a future sale that we recoup money? Is that because there's a lien? Is that the purpose?
The purpose of it is to force compliance. Once this lady gets the order in the mail, if you find the violation, she'll understand that that fine is beginning to run at $25 a day and will continue until she brings it into compliance. If she fails to bring it into compliance, the city, after a 90-day period of time, can foreclose that lien, have it put up for judicial sale, have the property purchased by someone who has an interest in the property, and get it into compliance. So that's the process, and that's what this code enforcement board is here to do, is to gain compliance. You can gain compliance by short compliance times, higher dollar amount of fines, based upon the gravity of each one of these violations. So that's the purpose of the order.
And if we don't know where she is, then we don't know how effective it'll be.
It's sent to who the state requires to send it to, and that is the address listed at the tax collector's office. And you remember now, you've heard testimony that the taxes are being paid. So hopefully the tax bill and the letter go to the same place. And so hopefully she'll understand the significance of the code enforcement lien and she'll do something. So.
Can we ask another question? Is this the second time she's been notified through certified mail or attempted? You said
Yes,
in
she's been
October.
notified numerous times.
So this is more than once that she's been.
Yes.
Anyone else have a question or comment? I have a question. What was the violation before? When the
133.02. Tree applicability and maintenance.
I meant
The same.
the $25 a day were.
Oh, she's asking what the
Yeah,
fine was
the
for the
fine,
first
I'm
case
sorry.
in 2015.
The fine's high.
Mm.
It's currently in the
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. How long?
How long?
I-
Well, this is profit, not
Fines have accumulated to 143.
currently $200.
So this is an addition, the 25. I'd like to see that
Raised.
raised. That's,
So we have to
Wanna
let,
amend
Gone on long
we
enough.
have a thing
Go
on the
ahead and
floor,
amend.
so we have to vote on that, and then we can adjust it if we defeat that.
You can amend the motion if you like.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Amend the motion to be $200 a day.
Second.
Second?
Second.
All right. So we'll get action.
any other,
Is this in addition to the to the 200?
Yes.
So it's now 400. It would be 400 if we voted this in?
No, it's $200 on the case that happened in 2015. It would be $200 for this case.
And it's not cumulative?
They both run at the same time. So you've got them running on different tracks at $200 apiece. So for example, in the case of 2015, it was for one oak tree in the bottom left corner of the property. She goes and cuts that tree down and cleans it all up. She'd be in compliance with that one. But the rest of them, that have been cited today for $200 a day, that will continue to run. So she can bring either one of them into compliance, and it could, alter what the dollar amount of the fine is. So you just need a roll call vote.
Call for vote?
Mrs. Norfleet?
We can't hear you down here, Bobby.
Oh, sorry. Moved. Ms. Norfleet?
Aye.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Ms. Archer?
Yes.
Good.
Motion carries, sir. Ma'am.
Now, Mrs. Wade had a suggestion, or she had discussion relative to abating, having the city abate this issue. There could be a recommendation made by a motion from this board to ask the city to abate those, and that may be helpful in convincing the administration and maybe even the city commission to authorize the abatement. So you can do that under Chapter 162. You have that authority to make a recommendation. You cannot order the city to do it.
I would like to do that, please.
So your motion is to, you recommend to,
And to the city that the property be abated, and those costs will be also assessed to the owner.
correct.
I'll second that one.
Discussion.
Any discussion?
Voice
Call for vote?
Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes, please.
Mrs. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Motion carries for abatement.
Next case.
On the next case?
Yep.
Go on to the next case, 17-800000538 at 1315 East Boyer Street. Jeffrey S. Sosito. Is there anyone here for?
Sir, after you sit down, if you could tell us your name, please, and whether you have had an opportunity to review the exhibits that have been provided to you by the city staff.
My name is Jeff Esposito. Yes, just today I received the pictures so I did review them.
Any objections to them being received into evidence?
Um,
You can discuss them when you have your opportunity to speak. The question is do you have any legal arguments as to why they shouldn't be received into evidence?
no, they can be received into evidence.
Thank you, sir. Okay, the city's going to go ahead and proceed then.
Thank you. Officer Steve Gasson, City of Tarpon Springs Police Department Code Enforcement, been so employed for 2 years. This is case 17-800000538. The property address is 1315 East Boyer Street. Property owner listed as a Jeffrey Esposito. Exhibit number 1 going before the board is going to be all of my photographs, include my inspections, both the initials and the final that was done today. Exhibit number 2 are all of my notices, including the notice of violation and the notice of hearings. Exhibit number 3 are my administrative documents to include the case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector records, and any emails. Exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. All the photographs and exhibits that were given to the violator are exact copies of what is being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collectors Database. All notice of violations and notice of hearings were sent certified return receipt and first-class mail. And Madam Chairman, if you would, please accept all the exhibits into the record as evidence once they've gone around.
Is that it? Or do I-
No, you can continue to testify. You still have other evidence.
You have other?
I don't know. I'll just continue on then.
Okay.
Okay. On August 26th, we received a complaint from the city regarding the property at 1315 East Boyer Street. My initial inspection was conducted on that date. At the time, the lot was overgrown. The house is in very poor conditions, dilapidated, had windows broken, sides of the roof were coming up, the soffits were in bad shape. There were trees actually growing in and out of the structure. On September 1st of this year, we mailed a notice of violation, certified and first class, to the property owner. I conducted a reinspection on October 4th. Basically, there was no change at that time, and it was put on the code board agenda. On October 4th, the notice of hearing was mailed, certified and first class. On October 28th, I posted the sign and completed an affidavit of posting. And earlier today, I completed the final inspection. It should be noted the property's been mowed. It looks like there's been some minor modifications to the structure. I can't be for sure, but primarily the property was mowed. But as you can see from the latter pictures that were taken today, it's still in very poor condition and is a hazard. It has some broken windows out front. And again, the soffits and the roof are in very poor condition. I'd like at this point in time and up until today, this is the first contact I've had with the owner. So I hadn't had any contact with him. Both my notice of hearing green card were return signed by the owner. And I'd like the board to find the property in violation of 8-40, which is maintaining a nuisance property, and the nuisance prohibitions dealing with the overgrown lot and such. That, again, are in compliance as of now. The overgrown lot is.
Mr. Gatson, yeah. So board questions of the city and then cross-examination.
City have any questions for Officer Gaston?
This was the first time this property has been cited.
No, it's not. But it's basically the first time it's been cited for the dilapidated structure. I've been out there before, but I was kind of new and kind of learning my way around. So it had been back in 2015 when I started, and they were 840 cases, but they were wrapped in with maintaining just the lot and cleaning the trash and debris up, and the structure really wasn't addressed. It's been in that basic condition for the last couple of years that I've been dealing with it.
I know that house.
Cross-examination. Sir, do you have any questions of Officer Gasson? You have the opportunity to ask him questions about what he has testified to. You don't have to, but if you have questions, now is your time to do that.
I don't have any questions.
Okay, well, if you don't have any questions, then the board needs to finish what it's doing, then you'll have the opportunity to speak. So, just a second. Once those exhibits get all the way to the end, and if there's no other questions from the board, let Mr. Esposito testify. Okay.
Okay, does the city have any other questions for Mr. Gasson? Not, Mr. Esposito, would you like to make a statement?
Yes. As far as the officer coming out on the 4th of October, there was still, I had other people drop debris from, that were business people that, on my property. That has nothing to do with the disrepair of the house, but it just hindered my being able to get out there and clean up the yard.
Speak into the microphone, sir. You may need to turn it just a little bit. Thank you.
You're welcome. The pictures also don't depict all the things that I did do to bring it into compliance. And unfortunately, had I had these pictures when the stuff was sent out, not just all the legal, it would be a lot easier to understand what all that needs to become into compliance. Like I say, I did a number of things to the home, just as far as cleaning it up. There's so some of these pictures don't show what I did do. I did obviously clean up the yard. You could see the piles in the front. I cleaned the sidewalk. I edged the sidewalk. All the way around the house was trimmed. The trees were trimmed. As far as the window, I put blinds up, temporary blinds, so at least it's not opened to just see through the house. Somebody stole the back French door on the house. It's a double French door. And that's why it was open. Somebody had broken into the home and that I wasn't aware of. Like I say, one of the French doors was stolen, and there was a window where in the one back area that had a board on it, and that was blown out. So I don't know if kids had got in there, or I don't know. But I have since, I put a piece of plywood over the door. I put a piece of wood back to cover up the opening. As far as the plywood on the east side of the building, presently I know it needs to have siding on it, but at least I put a coat of primer on it, so at least it's cleaned up the property a little bit. In regard to the roof, I'm in the process, and unfortunately with this, it's just a little bit of a setback, to sell the property. The person it's a local neighbor that lives in the neighborhood that wants to buy the property and demolish the property and build a new home. So with that, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to try and put a Band-Aid on the fascia of the roof if the house is going to be taken down. So if at all possible, if I could get have a little bit of leniency here in time, whether I could ask for another 2 months by that time I will have the property sold, and like I say, if I need to have him come in to also express his wishes that he is going to do that. Therefore, there would be no need to put money into the roof if the house is going to be knocked down.
Yes.
Does anyone on the board have any questions to ask?
How long have you owned the property?
I'm not actually sure. I used to live next door, and I still own that property, but I don't know if it was 5 or 6 years that I've owned the property. I had intentions of fixing it up, and I found out some things about the house that weren't done to code from the previous owner, and it made it more difficult to do the things that I wanted to do to the house. So unfortunately, it's that and a hardship of times it was harder to be able to afford to do what needed to be done to the house.
Any other questions?
Yeah, you say you've got somebody interested in buying it?
Yes, sir.
Do you have a contract?
I don't. I have a handshake. I know the gentleman because I used to live right next door.
Has
And
he paid you earnest of any sort?
like I say, I know the gentleman, so I just said I need to take care of the city before I didn't want to put this on anybody else. It's not right, because it's something else that's pending on the sale. So I wanted to take care of this before I had a contract with them. It wouldn't need to go through a, realtor or anything. It would just be two people, just making a sale of the property.
Are you realistic in 2 months that it'll be sold? Or
Yes.
Or would you like more time? Do you need more time?
I mean, I'm gonna sell the property. I know it's beyond repair at this point.
Yes.
And, so I guess, unfortunately, it is coming around the holidays. If you could just give me some leniency, it will definitely be sold. It's just, and then, the gentleman that's gonna purchase it, he's downsizing. And, I was actually the other day there over the weekend again doing some work, and he came by again and said, I'm praying for this property. So he really wants it, and that's why I didn't need to take any money down or upfront. And I know where he lives, and I know he's an older gentleman that's been here for many years. So
Yeah, the cross-examination first. I think it's cross-exam. Esposito.
Do we have a recommendation?
He does get the cross.
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Now we can ask him. Okay, I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
When was the last time you were out looking at the property?
I had a case in 2016, two in 2015, that I've seen the property, and it's basically been in that condition. I'm familiar with it even prior to that, just before I was in code enforcement, just being with the police department and knew about the property. And just for the record, Mr. Esposito purchased it in 2004, according to Pinellas County tax records.
It's basically been in disarray
Correct.
for many years.
One additional thing too is the ordinance 8-40 has a couple of caveats, and one of them is you can't have a boarded up structure. So boarding up windows does not make it become compliant. The International Property Maintenance Code and the Building Code require actual windows and doors, the roof to be intact, the soffits to be intact. There's a whole section that goes along with that.
Do you have a closing statement, Mr. Gaston, you'd like to make?
Basically, at this point, I'd just like the board to find, as I stated, in violation of 8-40, and then the 8-52, which is currently in compliance as far as the lot maintenance and those items, but just the structure itself being dilapidated, boarded up, and in poor condition.
Mr. Esposito, do you have a closing statement?
Just that if you would give me a little bit of leniency to comply as far as the building, like I said, the lot has been cleaned. So therefore I can pursue selling the property, and therefore it would be better the city as well as the community there, having a house that's up to date.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing of this now and discuss it among us.
Motion
Anyone?
first. Need a
Motion first.
I'll make a motion. I move based on testimony, evidence, and facts presented and law that at the time of the alleged violations of section 8-40 and 8-52 of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. The respondent was in violation thereof.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for a vote?
Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Robertson?
I want to confirm what the motion and second was for.
The motion is to find the property in violation of 8-40 and 8-52,
We haven't got to the motion yet about money.
or compliance.
That was a yes for Mr. Robertson, yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I move that the respondent shall have until the 15th day of February 2018 to bring the property into compliance with Code Section 8-40 and 8-52, or suffer a fine of $100 per day for each day thereafter the respondent remains in violation of said code section.
Repeat your date, please.
February 15th, 2018.
Second,
Babs, thank you.
any discussion? No? No discussion, I'll call for a vote.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
No.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
No.
Ms. Wade,
No.
Mrs. Dabbs,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes.
It carries 4-3.
Can I go ahead and summarize it for him? Sir, you've been found in violation of Section 8-40 and 8-52 of the City Code. You have until February 15th, 2018 to bring it into compliance. Should you fail to bring it into compliance by that time, you'll be fined $100 a day. You should also note that when you sell this property, you have a legal obligation to notify the purchaser that you're in violation of the City Code, that he is responsible just as much as you are responsible for this violation. Keep also in mind that if he doesn't comply, after you've sold the house, you'll have no ability to do that, but the fine will still be running against you.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
Okay, and that's it.
Yep.
Next case?
Okay, we're done. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
thank you. Esposito. Okay, next case 3, 17-800000544 at 509 Ashland Avenue. The owner, I guess, is Euros Bandage, who is deceased. Whenever you're ready.
Is anybody here for this case?
Sorry.
Mr. Delakis, do you have a power of attorney on this property?
Good afternoon, Board.
Mike, you need to answer my question.
What
What ownership interest do you have in the property?
It's my neighbor across the street, and I'm not here to speak for me. I'm here to speak for Ross
Okay, you
as
can't.
his alleged
No. you can't-
violator.
No. You can't-
And
You can't
it's
do
not
that.
to defend him, just to explain a little bit to
You
the
cannot
board.
do that, Mr. Delakis. You know the rules. And so unless you're called as a witness by the city or you're called as a witness by the owner of the property, you're not allowed to testify.
The owner can't call me.
Exactly.
And I want to express to the board as what we as neighbors are
Mr.
doing to
Delakis,
help
you're
Mr.
not supposed to be speaking. You know
Can I
that.
request to be called as a witness then?
If the city wants to call you as a witness, Mr. Gasson can do that. Okay.
This is case 17-800000544. The address is 509 Ashland Avenue. The owner is listed as Euros Bandage. We are aware that he is deceased. We have no other information as far as a trust or an estate or anything like that. So moving forward, exhibit number 1, which is going to be presented, is all of my photographs, including my inspections. Exhibit number 2 are all of my notices, to include the notice of violation and notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3 are my administrative docs, to include a case summary, property appraiser and tax collector records, and any emails. And exhibit number 4 is an affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. All the photographs and exhibits, well, we didn't give them to a violator, so we can skip that line. All of my notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collectors databases. All of my notice of violation and notice of hearings are sent via certified mail and first-class mail. And Madam Chairman, if you would please accept the documents, the photographs and documents
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
ma'am.
into the record.
He still needs to testify. He's only up to here. Did you get this back yet? Each case. It's not over there underneath that pink
Oh.
thing?
Probably there.
Look under that pink.
Yeah.
Under there. There they are. Okay, so we're on like the third or fourth one back. 509 Ashland Avenue.
And when you see the photographs of the houses going around, it's the house on the right. Just bit easier, the smaller house on the right.
Let me pass these along, so
I'm sorry.
keep them moving.
Take it.
Since
Yeah.
we're being a little slow here today.
I'm sorry.
No, it's not. There's a lot of documents.
Officer Gaston, if you want to go ahead and,
Sorry?
do you have your
Ready?
presentation? Go ahead.
Yes. On August 29th, I received a citizen complaint regarding the property being overgrown, primarily in the rear. On August 30th of 2017, I conducted the initial inspection and found that the property was overgrown, primarily in the rear. The house appears to be vacant, and there were some Brazilian pepper trees on the property. On September 7th, we mailed a notice of violation, certified and first class. Then obviously we had the hurricane. On September 23rd of 2017, I conducted a reinspection. There basically was no change, although there was a tree that had now fallen partially on the side of the house from the hurricane. And at that time, we sent another notice of violation that was basically amended to add the new issue of the tree on the house post-hurricane, with 2 weeks to comply for that. And that occurred on September 25th. On October 12th, I conducted another reinspection. There was no change, and at this point in time, sent it to the code board. This was about the time we came to the realization that the property owner was deceased. I had actually talked to Peter, who was up here earlier, and found out he was deceased. And we had no other contact information for an estate or a trust. On October 12th, the notice of hearing was mailed certified in first class. October 28th, posted the sign with the affidavit of posting being completed. And I conducted a final inspection, and there was no change from my last inspection. All of the mail returned marked deceased, unable to find under Pinellas County Clerk or Circuit Courts. So we got no contact with the owner either. At this point in time, I'd like the city to find the property in violation of 13303, which is the tree exemptions that require any property that has a certificate of occupancy issued that it forever maintains no Brazilian pepper trees on the property. The second one is 8-40, which is a duty to maintain private property. And the last one is 8-52, which requires the lot maintenance, the lawn mowing, trimming, and edging as required. Some additional information. The neighbors seem to be taking care of the front yard, but it's the backyard that's primarily the issue. And then with the new addition of the trees, has become a problem. So basically, that's all I have at this point.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, I do. There are no heirs. There's no, this guy has no estate, no
None that we can
children,
find as of yet.
Nobody that we can find.
I'm sorry?
Nobody that we can find.
Nobody at this point that we can find.
Other questions?
Recommendation? You have a recommendation?
Not yet.
So
I
you
was asking
remember
for a
now,
question.
we're breaking this down. A couple of months ago, we started breaking it down so that you determine whether or not there's a violation. And then after that motion finding a violation, then you would normally hear from Officer Gass and determine whether or not he has a recommendation as to the compliance date and the fine. So that's why he's saying not as of yet. Right now, we're trying to do it in two separate steps. For example, if you don't find a violation, you don't need to go to the next step. Motion.
Okay, so do we have a motion?
I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in law that at the time of the alleged violation, sections 8-40, 8-52, and 133.03 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effective. The respondent was in violation thereof.
Second.
Any discussion? We'll go on to the second motion.
Roll call.
Oh, roll call on that, sorry.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Ms. Wade,
Yes?
Ms. Dabbs,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes. Okay, now we have a second motion,
Recommendation first.
recommendation for
Yes, ma'am, thanks. Obviously, in the case with a deceased person like this, a significant fine is probably not going to motivate somebody to put it in compliance. So at some point in time, we're probably going to have to abate that property. So at this point, I would recommend we'll give 2 weeks and a fine of, say, $20 a day. It just moves us into the opportunity to when we can move forward with abating the property. At that point in time, it would be in compliance, and there wouldn't be a significant fine on the property in case it is sold.
Okay.
I
Want to make a motion on this?
I move that the respondent shall have until November 30th to bring the property into compliance with code sections 8-40, 852, and 133.03, or suffer a fine of $10 a day for each day thereafter the respondent remains in violation of said code section.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Call for a vote?
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yeah.
Mrs. Wade,
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes. Okay, on to the next case, case number 17-800000550, 1606 Gulf Road, from Aris Kazduris. Is anyone here for this case?
Okay.
Go on to.
Case number 17-800000550. The property address is 1606 Gulf Road. Listed property owner is an Eris Kazuris, who is present.
All right, let me ask him a couple questions, all right?
Sir, if you could state your name, please.
Eris Kazuris.
Okay, have you had the opportunity to look at the documents that city staff has presented you with in the photographs?
Yes.
You have any legal objection as to why they shouldn't be received into evidence?
No.
Okay, thank you. City's going to proceed, then you'll be given an opportunity to speak.
Yes.
Thank you. Exhibit number 1 going before the board are all of my photographs to include my inspections. Exhibit number 2 are all the notices to include the notice of violation and notice of hearings. Exhibit number 3 are the administrative documents to include the case summary and the property appraiser and tax collector records and any emails received. Exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. All of the photographs and exhibits that were given to the violator are exact copies of what is being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector databases. All notice of violations and notice of hearings are sent certified mail and first-class mail. And Madam Chairman, if you would, please accept all of the exhibits into the record as evidence.
Okay.
No, he's going to finish the rest of his case.
Originally on August 30th of this year, received a complaint. It was the complaint started out because of a call to the police department that I responded as backup on for disturbance, and it was an issue between Mr. Kazuris and one of his sons having a verbal dispute over some items in the house. During our investigation through that, I discovered numerous code violations while I was there, up to and including some major issues with the fencing, as you can see in the photographs. What basically stemmed the call to us, it was a large amount of property being stored in the garage area of the house. That's what the argument between Mr. Kazuris and his son was. But as Mr. Kazuris allowed me to inspect the property, we found that he was storing large amount of equipment and debris on the property. Found a white van parked around back that has no tags. It's not currently registered and is in a violation. He has a boat that hasn't been used since approximately 2007 stored on the property, so it's unused equipment. He had a large amount of debris and things like that stored around the boat out back. And as I stated earlier, the fence on both the east side and the west side was in significant disrepair. As you can see in the photographs, up to the point on the west side, it was leaning over probably in the area of 20 to 30 degrees into the neighbor's property. So he was cited for those at that time. I conducted a reinspection on September 30th, and basically he's not in compliance. The van and the boat were still on the property. Fence had not been repaired, replaced, or removed as required. I was unable to look inside the fenced area because I wasn't invited in at that point. On October 2nd, a notice of violation and a notice of hearing were mailed and certified first class. My initial warnings to Mr. Kazuris were face-to-face, so there was no paperwork at that time. I asked them to take care of the issues, and they weren't. On October 28th, I posted the property and signed an affidavit of posting. On October 9th, today, I conducted my final inspection earlier, and they're not in compliance. The fence has numerous posts put up. I checked with the city prior to. No permits were pulled for any of the fence work. There was a number of posts along the west side of the property on the outside of the fence, which would be in the neighbor's property, were actually sunk into concrete. That does require a fencing permit. And as I stated, I checked prior and there was no permit pulled for the fence work. Also, you can still see, even with the posts that were attempted to be put up for support, the fence is still leaning. It's going to be one of the pictures that comes around that was taken earlier today. Again, the van is still there. The boat is still there. There was still some debris inside the western fenced area. One of his sons did allow me on the property, and I noted some of the trash and debris had been cleaned up, but it's still not in compliance. So at this point in time, I would like the board to find him in violation of City Ordinance 3603, which deals with fences, walls, and hedges not being dilapidated and being in good condition. Accumulation of trash under 8-22. The nuisance conditions of duty to maintain private property of 8-40. And then the nuisance prohibitions of debris, trash, unused equipment, which particularly defines debris as boats that aren't used and other vehicles. And at this point in time, that's all I have.
Yeah, the board may have some questions of Mr.
Okay.
Gaston.
Does the board have any questions for Officer Gasson? Waiting to see the pictures.
Then he gets to ask questions.
Then he does.
Gaston now, yeah.
Okay, does the board have any questions for Mr. Gasson? Off the gas? No? Do you have any questions, Mr. Cazares? Just
My question is
questions for
very
Mr.
simple.
Gasson?
Yes, very simple. For 40-some years,
No, just questions
my question.
to Mr. Gasson.
To the officer.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm done. Did you see it today, you say?
I'm sorry?
Did you check it today, the house, whatever it has to be done?
About 10 o'clock this morning, yes, sir.
Okay, I was there. I saw you. You was talking to my son in your car. You see me, and my son, he told you, he says, that's my dad. He's waiting for you. You didn't come over. You already have it done, finished your inspection?
I did, sir, yes.
Okay. And you reverse your vehicle and you left. Okay, so is it done? It's over?
No.
What has to be done? Move what? The bolt? And what else?
The boat, the van, the,
The van.
trash, the debris, the fence. You
Is
now
still,
have to get a
is still
permit.
trash in the property? Is still trash in the property?
Yes, sir.
It is?
Yeah, I took pictures. I can show them to you if you like.
I
You-
see the pictures.
Right.
There's no, you still, there's no trash in the property. You mean you expect me to throw away what? My equipment, the machineries, the compressor, the wheelbarrow? It's not trash.
Okay.
What else?
If you'd like me to read you the definition of debris under 8-52, I
Wait, tell me,
certainly can.
please. What is the debris you see today? I'm asking you.
Debris is considered abandoned, inoperative, or unusable.
I say
ma-
yes. I agree with that. The bolt and the vent, it will be done. I'm going to ask the board if they can give me more time. I take care of that. What else you see debris besides the bolt and the car?
Okay.
Answer me,
I was
please.
about to read that to you. If you'd like me to, I can.
Please, I wait.
Okay. Debris is defined as abandoned, inoperative, or unusable material, equipment, or machinery, or other material, equipment, or machinery which is stored externally, or other material, equipment, or machinery that is stored or maintained in such a fashion as to create a nuisance described in 8-50. This definition shall include, but not limited to, one or more of the following: discarded household items, inoperative or abandoned machinery, motor vehicles, boats, trailers, or household appliances, including but not limited to freezers, refrigerators, ice boxes, stoves, dishwashers, and washing or drying machines for clothing, refuse, garbage, rubbish, trash, junk, other scrap, lumber, pipe, steel, plumbing fixtures, insulation, barrels, boxes, drums, piping, glass, iron machinery, excelsior or plastic, fallen trees, tree
Mr.
limbs.
Gage, that's
except-
enough. I understand all that.
Okay.
My question is very simple. What did you see today to tell the board?
All the
Besides
trash
the
that-
bolt and the vehicle, what else?
all the trash that's around the vehicles.
The trash is the machinery. The man that was working there, they left over there. Wheelbarrow, compressor,
You asked, I
hoses.
told
There's
you.
not a trash. There's not a trash. Compressor, you know, it's $4,000 compressor you see over there.
I didn't see a
The mi-
$4,000.
you didn't see the compressor? It's covered with the plastic. You got it in a picture over here.
I saw a bunch of concrete pieces on the
Good.
east side of the van. I saw trash bags. I saw a plastic tub. I saw stuff inside of your gate on the west side, piece of board leaning up a fence, which actually creeps over into your neighbor's yard. So I deemed that
And
to be
Chris,
debris.
is there
Yes,
any-
sir. It's in the picture.
Listen, let me ask you something. I don't want to make any father, you know. Don't tell me, you know, that you see a trash today because the property I called yesterday, I went yesterday to the police station and I asked for you. And I was talking to the officer. I says, where is Mr. Gage? He says, he's not here. He's not going to become to 9:30 plus. And then I called and I talked to your secretary, Barry. And then I says, listen, I'm done. When I call done, I'm done. I know my word. I know my job. I know what I have to do. Whatever it was previous you sent me, I took care of it. Now you're talking about continually trash. And I repeat to you.
Mr. Cazares, you're supposed to just ask the gentleman questions at this time, and then
But that's
you'll
my
have a-
question. What is
then
the
you'll
trash?
have a chance for your statement, okay?
Okay,
Do
it's
you have
not
any other
trash.
questions?
My question is very simple. Please give me a time what I'm going to do with my bolt and my
Statement.
white van, my van, the truck. That's it.
Okay, your question.
All right,
Nothing else.
yeah.
Okay. If you'd like to give your statement at this time, a testimony of what You're welcome to.
I'm asking him, if the fence is, because you made a big deal of fence, the fence is done, yes or no? It is, to me, it's done.
No,
It's not done, the fence?
no, sir. I explained that in my initial. You put up
But let me
posts.
tell you something, if you tell me no, that board over here, I'm gonna have to have the board personally to come over there. I will call them to come and see the fence. There's no other way. Professionals, they finish it. I know. Everybody, when the tornado, you going by Irma, he tear it down, whole Tarpon Springs and up plus, from here to Miami. And my fence, it was still up. And now I reinforced it with a 10-foot post, 4x4, 4 feet down, cement,
Without a permit.
permit. I don't need a permit to put a post.
Yes, you do.
You let over here, he says to me,
No, but the new one will say that you need a permit.
the new one, there's not a new one. I didn't ask
But
for a new
the
one.
fence still isn't, sir, the fence
Excuse
still.
me, listen to me, please.
Trying to answer
Please
your
listen to me.
question.
Your paper, it says, if I tear it down and replace it, I will get a permit, correct? Also, you match it, it says, you can fix it. I fix it. And those fans, they're gonna be done at 30 plus years, if more. Because the previous you see with your eyes is already, it's already 28 years old, those previous. And they're gonna be another 28 plus years, the work I did. 4 feet down, 4x4, which is 4x4 PT. Pressure treat it, clean it, okay? That's cement that big of a hole. Those fans, they don't go nowhere. And to your experience, it could be, but a professional experience, no, they're not. So, the fence is done. There's nothing I can do, only paint it. Whatever color I chose, white, purple, whatever. That's the fence. The body can come and visit himself. They're not going to take your word because you say my fence is not done.
That's actually does how it works, sir. They do take.
I
our word.
understand that, but I have a reason also.
Okay. Do you have any other questions?
That's my question. You say my fence is not done. It is done.
Okay.
It is done.
We're past cross-examination,
Yes.
sir. This is your statement. You should be speaking to the board. This is the board that makes the
I-
decision.
okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
The fence is
So
done.
do you have anything else that you wanted to tell the board?
Please give me time or tell me what to do with my bolt and my vehicle. That's it.
Sir, how much time do you think would be needed to complete what you need to complete?
What do I have to do to my vehicle? In other words, what? I'm asking you, what do I have to do to my bolt?
What you're going to need to do, if you don't understand what you need to do, if the board finds you in violation, you can talk to Officer Gasson after this meeting, or you can call him and he can schedule an appointment with you to come out to your house and tell you exactly what needs to be done. Do you have any other statements?
I have to plate it.
I'm sorry?
I have to plate, put a plate, number it, stick it. What else? To the bolt.
Sir, we're not going to go through the details of what you need to do. If you don't understand, the board doesn't tell you what it's going to
Okay.
take. So you're going to need to contact Officer Gasson after this meeting today. If you want to wait around,
He
probably
already
have to-
told me previous. He says plate it
Okay.
or have it go and start it. Or move it.
So my question to you was, how much time do you think you need to bring all of it in compliance? That's what's important to the board today. You asked for time. How much time do you think that you need?
You ask me how much time I need
Yes, sir.
to put it in my bolt plate.
No, I asked you, well, how much time it would take to bring everything in compliance, not just putting a tag on your boat.
According to him, it's never going to be compliant. I'm sorry. The only I'm asking, the vehicle and the bolt. Everything else is, he's talking about trash. There's no trash there.
Well,
The wall is done.
This board gets to make that determination, sir.
Okay. Fine.
So back to my question.
My time-
It would be helpful to the board if you could
I'm
tell.
asking, okay, give me a time, please, for the bolt. And
Are we talking a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? How much time do you think that you need?
give me 2 weeks.
Okay, that's what we needed to know. You have any questions, Officer Gasson, of the property owner?
For the bolt, I'm
Okay.
speaking about now. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes, 2 weeks.
I think we're done. We're summary now.
In the van, the white van.
Yeah, the board have questions. Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna close the public hearing part of it. Does the board have any questions for either Mr. Caceres, Mr. Gasson? And no one? No questions?
Summaries. Summary.
Oh, summaries.
I don't have anything other than I'd just like to ask the board to find Mr. Kazuris in violation, as I stated. 3603 for the fences, walls, and the hedges,
I can
822 the
understand.
accumulation of trash, 8-40 and 8-52.
Can I make a motion?
Yeah.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in law that at the time of the alleged violation, sections 8-22, 8-40, 8-52, 36.03 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. The respondent was in violation thereof.
Second that.
Any questions?
Discussion.
Discussion? Call for a vote?
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Ms. Wade,
Yes?
Ms. Dabbs,
Yes.
Ms. Archer.
Yes. Anybody want to make a motion on the second?
Yeah. I move that the respondent shall have until November the 30th to bring the property into compliance with code sections 8-22, 8-40, 8-52, and 36.03, or face a fine of $50 a day.
Second?
I didn't hear
Second.
the amount.
The amount is $50 per day.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do you have any discussion on this? Okay, call for a vote.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
No.
Mr. Kramer,
No.
Mr. Weeks,
Yeah.
Mrs. Wade,
Yes?
Mrs. Dabbs,
No.
Mrs. Archer,
Yes.
That's 4-3.
it carries 4-3.
Okay, so I'm just gonna summarize for him.
Sir, the case has been completed.
Mhm.
The board found you in violation of sections 8-40, 8-22, 8-40, 8-52, and 36.03 as cited in the notice of violation to you. You've been given until November the 30th
Mhm.
to bring it into compliance. Should you fail to bring it into compliance by that period of time, there'll be a $50 a day fine. If you don't understand what you need to do to bring it into compliance, as I mentioned before, contact Officer Gasson after this meeting, and he'll be able to help you determine what needs to come into compliance.
So I have 2 weeks to move the vehicle and the van. Okay, thank you.
It's the entire property needs to be brought into compliance, just not the boat and the van, sir. I just want to make that clear. You can tell me what you think it is, but that's not necessarily what it is, so.
What I said it clear. How many times you have to say please? I speak English very well. 57 years I speak English. And before, matter of fact, he born. What is the problem more to the, he's talking about the wall. It cannot be done anymore to the wall. The wall is done. Over. It's done. You can come anybody besides him to check the wall. Send professionals. Send, people that do nothing but a fence.
They may be willing to do that, to bring out the building official to
I
determine
may
it.
have to, might have to do that, yes.
So
I will have to bring a professional,
Contact Mr. Officer Gasson after the meeting and set up a time to get that done. Okay?
Because again, I
Okay.
appreciate your time. Thanks, all of you. I appreciate 2 weeks. The fence, as I said, the only I have to do the fence is paint it. Is that a violation too because there's no paint on it? I'm asking you. Is there a violation to not paint it?
Sir, the hearing is over. We're going to move on to the next case. We have all these
But
people
I'm
waiting.
not done yet. You're telling me, I'm done.
The hearing is done.
It's done with him
So
and
that's-
me.
That's right. So you can contact Officer Gasson after today, and he will meet with you and explain what needs to be
What about if I
done.
say something else? How about if I take Officer Kazin all over Tarpon Springs, and I show you, what you have to do, your really job, your job.
Be
In other
mindful
words,
of what you say, sir. I am a police officer in this city.
I understand
You're
that.
done. You
I
need
will
to go.
take-
Okay? I'm telling you, you're done. We'll step
I'm
outside
done?
and we'll talk after this, but you're done for now. Okay? Remember what you say next is public record. And I'm telling you, you're done. You can step up and leave. We'll discuss this at another time. If you have a question about that, I'll make arrangements for your transport out of here. If you have any question about that, please challenge me on it. But you're done. You've been told you're done. It's
What I
time for
mean-
you to go.
Sir.
There you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay,
Have a
next,
good weekend.
next case. 17-800000576.
done.
1400 Poinsettia Avenue. Reci Rio Sub LLC. Is anyone here? No one's here from, okay. Yes.
Case 17-800000576. The property address is 1400 Poinsettia Avenue. It's owned by Resi Rio, I'm not sure what sub, LLC. This actually, Ms. Archer, was the complaint that you called in, so.
Okay.
Exhibit number 1 are all the photos to include the inspections. Exhibit number 2 are all of my notices to include the notice of violation and notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3, the administrative docs to include the case summary, property appraiser and tax collector records, and any emails. Exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. All of the photographs and exhibits that are going around, well, they're the exact replicas. All of my notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Database and Tax Collector records. All notice of violations and notice of hearings are sent certified mail, return receipt, as well as first-class mail. And, Madam Chairman, if you would, please accept all the exhibits into the record as evidence. Moving forward with the case, September 26th of this year, I received a complaint, as I stated, from Ms. Archer regarding, this was post-Irma. The fence around this property was significantly damaged, which in turn exposed the pool that's inside the property, which is full of water. The property is lived in. There are people there. I made contact with the property owners. They're a little bit frustrated with their management because they called it in immediately after the storm and have been attempting to get the property into compliance, and they've have some issues with the management company taking care of the problem. As I stated, part of the fence is torn down. The tenant actually emailed us a copy of the work order from the company. That was September 27th. I mailed out the notice of violation, certified and first class, on September 28th. October 14th, conducted a reinspection with no change. It's still basically in the state that the pictures show. Sent out a notice of hearing the next day, on the 17th, first class and return receipt requested. I posted the sign on October 28th. And then earlier today, about 9:20 this morning, I conducted another inspection, and it is as it sits. I've had no contact with the owner. We did get a green card returned unsigned, and the tenants, because we also mailed them a copy as well, we did get their green cards back. And the property manager, we did get their green cards back. And the notice of hearing from the property manager was also returned signed. Other than that, I've had no contact with the property owner, and at this time, I'd like the board to find the property in violation of 8-40, the duty to maintain private property, which exclusively discusses the security of pools and the maintenance of your pool. 3603, fences, walls, and hedges, which is fairly obvious, the fence is in poor condition. And then 36.02, which requires in the city ordinance that swimming pools have an enclosure, which would be that fence. So at this point, I have nothing further.
Board have any questions?
Yes, it looks like the issue is the pool exposed to somebody.
Correct. Yeah, it's, the fence is partially up, and because the fence is down, now the pool's exposed.
Probably storm damage.
Yeah, it was storm
Okay.
damaged.
Okay.
Also really close to the school.
It is. It's right on the corner of Poinsettia and Peninsula. Right up the road from the high school and the elementary school.
Have a motion.
Okay. You want to have a motion? You want to make a motion?
I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in law that at the time of the alleged violation, sections 8-40, 36.03, and 36.02 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. The respondent was in violation thereof.
Second.
Any discussion? I have something I want to say. Because I called this in, I'm gonna have to recuse myself from voting. But one thing I just don't understand, when we see an open pool like that, it just really scares me that something can't be done to it right away with children around, being, you know, the property being close to schools, little kids running around and all that. I don't know if there's anything that can be done. It's a shame that it can't be if it, you know, it's been exposed for a long, long time now. And,
Maybe we'll give them the impetus to get that done.
Okay, Madam Chair, I just wanted you to remind you that pursuant to that, that notice that you've just given to the board that you're going to abstain from vote, you have 15 days from today's hearing to go ahead and fill out that abstention form, and the city clerk's office will have that for you. Make sure you do that within 15 days, and the clerk can help you out with that. Okay.
any other questions, statements? Call for a vote.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Mrs. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson, Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Miss Wade,
Yes,
Mrs. Dabbs, Mrs. Archer.
She's abstaining.
Oh, abstain, so sorry.
Okay, just need the second half of that motion now.
Okay, second.
we make a suggestion.
Sorry, I can't hear her down there.
Is he gonna make a suggestion?
You can do that?
I can. Based on the circumstances, I would request the board basically order them to immediately take care of this up to, and then a fine of $250 a day because of basically the safety hazard that goes with that. The case started all the way back in, right after the storm, so we're well into 2 months on this.
I move that the respondent shall have until November 30th to, bit more, we got Thanksgiving in there, to bring the property into compliance with code sections 8-40, 36.03, 36.02, or suffer a fine of $200 per day for each day thereafter the respondents may remain in violation of said code sections.
Second.
I want to be clear, that motion is to delay this till the November 30th to remedy it.
The motion is November 30th for the compliance date. The answer is yes. It's not delaying it. That's the date that this board member has suggested that they come into compliance. So if you think that now's the time to discuss that. You can discuss the date and the dollar amount, so.
You just said not to delay it. This is November the
9th.
9th. November the 30th is delaying it, if I'm not mistaken. Am I missing something?
The 23rd is Thanksgiving. That was 2 weeks. Would you like me to amend the motion?
It's up to you. I don't think it should be delayed.
Posts are up. I'll amend the motion to put the date to November 3rd, 23rd.
I'll second that amendment.
Any other discussion? Have a vote?
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Miss Wade, Mrs. Dabbs,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer.
No, she's abstaining.
Oh, Jesus. So sorry.
Next.
Okay, and that-
And with the amendment, the $200 stay, correct? You're just changing the date?
Just change the date.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
the 6th been complied?
Oops, sorry.
Whoa.
I should be
Fine.
punished.
You have to bring snacks the next time.
If I was in Rotary, I'd have to pay $5.
Okay, it says complied. Does that mean 6 is complied?
Is this the Sunrise Drive case?
Yes.
Yeah, 852 is.
So I go ahead with it anyway? Okay,
Yeah, one of them is.
Both
thank you.
violations?
Okay. Case number 17-800000594. This is 960 Sunrise Drive. Catherine Amy? Is anyone here? Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. 17-800000594, the address 960 Sunrise Drive, property owners listed as a Catherine Amy. Exhibit number 1 going before the board are photographs to include my inspections. Exhibit number 2 are all my notices to include the notice of violation and notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3, administrative docs to include the case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector records, and any emails. Exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. All of my notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector database. All the notice of violations and notice of hearings were sent certified mail as well as first-class mail. And Madam Chairman, once they come around, please accept all exhibits into the record as evidence.
Will do, thank you.
This case started on October 5th of this year. It was a complaint that I generated because I was doing inspections on the street, and as I was doing it at the end of the cul-de-sac, I made a U-turn. They have a tree out front that was about 6 feet off of the roadway, and then at that point in time, I noticed their roof had tarps on it. I looked back in my prior cases. Earlier this year, I'd actually put a case in for the roof having issues and referred it over to the building department. And I didn't know what the status of it was with the building department, so I went ahead and generated another case today to have it looked at by this board. And at that point in time, as I stated, there were tarps all over the roof, and the tree was below the 14-foot required limit for NFPA, which is the National Fire Prevention Association. The fire marshal basically regulates how high trees can be above the roadway under the Fire Prevention Act. At that point in time, we mailed a notice of violation on the 5th of October. On October 21st, I conducted a reinspection. The tree trimming had been done, and she had some debris issues in the yard, but they were all cleaned up. So that's the reason why at this point in time, 852 is in compliance. She's no longer in violation of that. On October 23rd, the notice of hearing was mailed certified and first class. October 28th, I posted the sign with the affidavit of posting being completed. And earlier this morning, I conducted the final inspection. As I stated, 852 is in compliance, but there's still tarps over the roof, which under 8-40 is kind of a dilapidated structure without a roof intact. I did have some conversation with Miss Amy, probably about noon. She was asking about the board hearing. She explained to me, especially, she had a small leak, and then the storm came through, which became a larger leak. She's filed her FEMA paperwork 2 weeks ago. So she's working on that aspect of it to try to get it into compliance. As I stated, I spoke to her, and we also received the green card for the notice of violation and notice of hearing for return to our office. So at this point, before the board, I'd like them to consider the violation of 8-40, the duty to maintain private property, particularly the roof. And then I have some other information after that if the board finds it in violation.
Board have any questions? Do you have some more you wanted?
She had a small leak.
She had a small leak, then it turned into a bigger leak because of the storm. Got some more tarps, got some FEMA tarps.
All right, we have a motion on this?
If I understand correctly, all the debris has been
Yes, ma'am,
cleared
it
up.
has. Yeah, the only thing we're dealing with is the roof, that structure itself.
We need to violate and say in compliance for that second item, or only deal with the one?
Just need to deal with the one at this
Fine.
point.
Yeah, 'cause I'm not establishing it.
But did
I
you
move
say,
based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in the law that at the time of the alleged violation, sections 840, the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect, and the respondent was in violation thereof.
Second.
Any discussion?
yeah, I had one question. You said she's waiting on FEMA to help her with the roof issue?
Yes, sir.
She is?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? Statement?
Could I also have the rest of your exhibits, please?
Oh, dear.
Might as well make the date 2022 the theme.
Oh, okay, Ms. Dabbs has a question.
Mr. Gadsden, is the violation just because she has a leak in the roof?
It's because of the structure, the roof has to be intact, and with tarps on, you can't have tarps on your roof, basically, under 8-40. So, I mean, I assume she had a leak. But I don't think she put the tarps up for like a decorative purpose or anything, so, and it's true, she had a leak.
Does
to
the
the roof.
ordinance allow amount of time that they can have tarp?
No, it's kind of the similar to the boarding, you can't board
Even
up
in
a house,
lieu
part
of
of
the
a house.
storm, I mean, oh, there was trouble before. So
Yeah.
I didn't hear what was said.
The evidence in the pictures showed that there was trouble in addition to the storm damage. If so, it was a long-standing other leak.
So the motion is that they are still in violation of 840?
Correct.
All right, call for vote.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes?
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Ms. Wade,
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs, Mrs. Archer.
Yes. Okay, can we have a, motion on the second?
City may have a recommendation as to compliance
I'm
date
sorry.
and dollar amount.
That's okay.
We always enjoy
During
your-
my discussions with Miss Amy, she requested 60 days. We kind of went down the timeline with what's going on with FEMA.
Okay.
She did file it late, but she did file it. Basically the information she was giving me sounds consistent with somebody who has filed the request. So she asked for 60 days. She's got a roof contractor to take care of it, which, as we can probably appreciate right now, is not exactly a fast process. So she's well aware of the 60 days that I told her I would ask the city for. As far as the fine goes, I don't have a recommendation other than probably $50 a day to expedite the process, because it is in her best interest to have that roof intact.
Have a motion?
You want to do it? You want me to do it?
I don't care. Go ahead.
I move that the respondent shall have until February 1st, 2018 to bring the property into compliance with code section of 8-40 or suffer a fine of $100 per day for each day thereafter the respondent remains in violation of said code section.
Second? Can I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Call for vote?
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes?
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
No.
Ms. Wade,
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs,
No.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Number 7, repeat violator.
Yes.
Case number 17-800000585 at 568 Grand Boulevard under James and Margot Ingalls. Is there anyone here from there? All right. I guess.
This is case 17-800000585. It is a repeat violator case. The previous case was case 15-532, which was in violation of 8-40 and 8-52 at the time. The starting date for out of compliance is the date of my initial inspection, which would be October 4th, 10/4 of this year. Basically, exhibit number 1 that's going around are all of my photos to include my inspections. All of my notices to include the notice of hearing is exhibit number 2. Exhibit number 3 are my administrative docs, the property appraiser, tax collector records, and any emails. Exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. Exhibit number 5 is the affidavit of prosecution costs. All of the notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collectors database. All notice of violations and notice of hearings are sent certified mail, return receipt, as well as first-class mail. And, Madam Chairman, if you would, please accept all the exhibits into the record as evidence once they've made their way.
Yes, sir, we will.
We initially received a complaint from a citizen on October 2nd regarding the lot or the property being overgrown. On October 4th, I conducted my initial inspection and found that it was overgrown and part of the north side of the house is actually coming off. There is a repeat, as I stated, the repeat violator case under 15-532. And at that point in time, we sent the repeat violator notice of hearing to the property owner listed. October 4th, that notice was mailed. October 28th, I posted the property and an affidavit of posting was signed. October 31st, the repeat violator notice of hearing to a different address when the clerk, we found out there was a change in the address for the property owner. So we mailed out another notice of hearing to the property owner on October 31st. And it was updated in the tax collector's database on November 1st. So a couple days afterwards, it got updated. We didn't get any return mail, but we did get a United States Postal Service tracking number. And we've had no contact with the owner. And at this point in time, I'd like the board to find that they are in violation and continuing to be in violation as a repeat violator of 8-40 and 8-52, because they are not in compliance at this point. And that's all I have at this point, ma'am.
Was a fine issued previous?
No, they were established previously. I don't believe there was a prior fine case. No, there wasn't. So there was no prior fines. They were just established, and he came into compliance.
How long ago was that?
2015. The case started out October 21st of 2015 and came into compliance probably within 60 to 90 days.
Anybody living in that house?
No, ma'am.
And the storm shutters, they've been on there for a long, long time? Or?
I honestly don't remember when they got put up. Sorry.
It's a rental property?
I have no idea what
It's not
the,
homestead.
it hasn't been, I don't know. I didn't look at the, oh, I'll take your word for it then. I didn't look to see if it was homesteaded.
Open with them? Or
I've had no contact with them.
Anyone have any other questions for Officer Gasson? We entertain a motion?
I move based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented, and law that respondent was in violation of section 8-40 and 8-52 from the date of the election,
October 4th of 2017.
from October 4th of 2017 until such time as brought into compliance, and a fine of $50 a day shall be imposed until compliance is met. In addition, I move that be awarded its cost for prosecuting this case. 120.50.
120.50, yes.
$120.50.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? I'd like to see it go over. Roll call? Okay.
Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yeah.
Mr. Weeks?
Yeah.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next one. Also a repeat violator, that, case number 17-800000602, 456 East Cypress Street, Paul and Elaine Hobbs. Is there anyone here from, okay. Just go up and give your name.
Hello,
Hello. Your name, sir?
Paul E. Hobbs.
Have you had the opportunity to look at the documents that the city is going to tender into evidence?
Yes.
Do you have any legal objections?
No.
Okay, thank you.
This case number 17-800000602, the property address is 456 East Cypress Street, owned by Paul and Elaine Hobbs. This is a repeat violator case that currently is in compliance. The period from October 7th to October 22nd, or 15 days, was what was determined to be out of compliance. Exhibit number 1 going before the board are all of my photographs to include the inspections. Exhibit number 2 are all of my notices to include the notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3 are administrative docs to include the case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector records, and any emails received. Exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign, and exhibit number 5 is the affidavit of prosecution costs. All of the photographs and exhibits that were given to the violator are exact copies of what is being presented to the board. All of the notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector database. All my notice of violation, notice of hearings are sent certified return receipt and first-class mail. And, Madam Chairman, please accept all the exhibits into the record as evidence once they've made their way.
Yes.
The case originally started October 6th of this year from an anonymous complainant regarding the yard being overgrown, recycled containers in public view, and some other items. On October 12th, and I conducted the inspection, that was on October 6th. I conducted the inspection on October 7th and found that the yard was overgrown. There's some trash and debris around the property, including up on the porch and the patio, as you can see in the photographs. On October 12th, we received a message from the property owner stating they're ready for a reinspection. I did conduct a reinspection on October 17th and found there were still numerous items being stored on the porch. There's a utility trailer full of items being stored on the property, and I spoke to a female basically outside and advised her of the issues. On October 22nd, we received a message. The property was ready for reinspection. I did conduct the reinspection on October 24th, but due to the fact that they called me on October 22nd, we honored that date of October 22nd as their compliance date and found the property to be in compliance on that date. I did post the property on October 28th, and we did get a green card for the notice of hearing returned by the owner. As stated, we've had contact with them. At that point, I'd like the board to consider for the 15-day period the violation of 8-16, 8-40, and 8-52, which are all in compliance at this point. And I have nothing further.
The board have any questions of Officer Gasson?
This is a addressing the same odds. Was a fine issued previous?
No, it was not.
Wait, we need you to speak in your microphone. You've pushed it all the way
sorry.
to the right. They can't hear down here, and I know I
I
can't.
sat down there before, I
Okay.
understand, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was asking if a previous fine had been levied against this property.
Not that I'm aware of.
If he's in compliance, what's the issue?
Repeat violator.
And penalty?
Yeah, the way the law works is that once they've been found in violation, the second time around, they don't get any special notice. They're deemed to be in violation at the time when the inspection takes place, once you find that violation. And it'll continue to run until such time as they come into compliance. And that's the reason why it's coming to you as a repeat violation, which is a little bit different than an initial violation. This is not his first rodeo. So they're bringing it forward to establish a fine from October the 7th to October the 22nd for 15 days of having been in violation. And they're also asking for prosecution costs of $82.50.
Oh.
There are no other questions. Sir, do you have any questions of Officer Gasson? You have the opportunity to ask him any questions based upon the testimony that he just gave.
No.
Sir? Okay, now is your opportunity to make your presentation to the board. Anything that you wanted to add or tell the board that they should be aware of?
Well, I didn't get notice of nothing until the 12th. That's it.
questions from the board?
Board have any questions for Mr. Hobbs?
Would there be someone else at that address that might have received that notice?
No, I got the mail on the 12th, and that's when I knew about any of this is on the 12th. And I took care of it on the 12th. Then when I called to have him come back, that's when he saw my trailer, which I'd known that 5 months ago, and my recycling bin sitting on the front porch. Then that couldn't be there. They would have been taken care of 5 months ago.
Yes, and can ask questions of him.
Officer Gasson, you have any questions of Mr. Hobbs?
Mr. Hobbs, do you recall the previous case against you that was earlier this year when you got notice of violations and you had to bring the property into compliance?
Yes, I believe so, yeah.
Did you note on any of that documentation where it explained what would happen if you came into violation again for those same violations? Do you recall any of that?
I think it was you get fined or something, no notice.
Correct. Okay. That's all I have at this time.
Closing statement?
Yeah.
Mr. Hobbs, do you have a closing statement you'd like to make? To the
Just if I'd have known about my recycling bins and the trailer, it would have been taken care of 5 months ago. But at the time, nobody said anything when I was in compliance the first time. Nobody said nothing about the recycling bins that were on the front porch, which I didn't know that you couldn't have them on your front porch. They said garbage cans, those got moved. If they just said the recycling bins, they would have got moved. And if they would have seen my trailer when I was in compliance the first time, saying it couldn't be there, or the stuff in there, it would have been gone 5 months ago. But I was waiting till it to get a little colder because I have a heat issue out in the sun. It would all been taken care of 5 months ago.
But he may have some summary.
Dr. Gaston, you have a summary you'd like to make on that?
Basically,
Make a motion.
as I stated, the fact that the trash container is not just the only item. He had a few violations that he was established for previously. The grass was overgrown, and as Mr. Trask pointed out, he's a repeat violator based on that other case. So the fact that he received notice on the 12th doesn't negate the fact that I inspected it on the previous date. That's why our starting date for the violation is the 7th, because that's when I found it. And as he even stated when I questioned him, he was aware that the fines could begin without notice. So the fact that he received notice 5 days after it is a moot point. We're notifying him of this hearing, which is we're legally obligated to do. We're not notifying him of the requirement to fix the violation, just that he's got a hearing because of the violation. And that's all I have.
No, just a motion now.
All right. I have a motion.
I'll make a motion. I move that based on testimony, evidence, facts presented in law, that the respondent was in violation of sections 8-16, 8-40, and 8-52 from 10/7/2017 to 10/28/2017, a fine of $5 per day for a total of 15 days, or a fine of $75. In addition, I move that the city be awarded $82.50 for costs it incurred in prosecuting the case.
You have a second?
Discrepancy on the date.
Okay, so, Mr. Kramer, your motion was to find the violation through October 28th.
Well, whatever the dates are,
October 22nd is what has
there
been
it is,
testified.
October 22nd.
You had the 15 days correct. So your motion would be from October 7th to
7th.
October 22nd?
To the 22nd.
15 days.
Yes, 15 days.
Was that good to the second? Mrs.
Second.
Wade, yes, okay.
Any discussion? Vote?
Ms. North?
This is a repeat violation. The fine is only $5 a day?
Is that your fine? That was your fine, $5 a day? Mr.
$5 a day.
I'd like to amend that to 75, agreeable to you.
Like to amend it to what?
I'm not interested in
70.
amending it, so, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So,
Hear what he did say.
so there was a request of the maker of the motion to amend his fine, daily fine amount from $5 a day to $75 a day, and that was not acceptable. So at this point, the motion on the floor is the fine in violation for 15 days at $5 a day. That's the motion.
Any other discussion? Do we have a second?
Yes, Mrs. Wade.
All right.
Vote?
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
No.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
No.
Mrs. Wade,
No.
Mrs. Dabbs,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes.
Carries.
Okay, sir, you've been found in violation of sections 8-16, 8-40, and 8-52 of the city code. Although you're in compliance now, you've been fined $75, 15 days at $5 a day. You've also have been found to be responsible for the prosecution of the code enforcement case. That's $82.50. You have any other questions of us?
No.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Your case is done then. Thanks.
I'll get a thing in the mail.
Yes, you will get an order in the mail. It'll take approximately 10 days. And you can pay that at the city clerk treasurer's office anytime. Okay?
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Okay, our next case is a repeat violator with new violations. It's case number 17-800000604 at 218 North Pinellas Avenue. This is Olympic Investments Group, LLC. Is anyone here? State your name. Come up here. Thank you.
You could state your name, Mr. Patsalides, and what your relationship is to Olympic Investments Group, LLC.
Harry Patsalides. I don't really know. I believe my wife is one of the LLC members, and I am as well. But I'm not
Mr.
sure.
Madam Chairman, he hasn't
We
been sworn
can't
in
hear
yet.
him.
He wasn't sworn in.
Oh,
Okay, well, we need to fix that. Sir, if you could stand up, raise your right hand. The clerk is going to swear you an oath because you got here just a little bit late.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay.
and is his mic on? Because it's hard to hear him.
If you could just lean forward into the mic, Mr. Patsalides. You said that you wanted to present something to the board?
Yes, sir. My attorney had a conflict. He wanted to be here to represent me, and he wrote a letter asking if the board would respectfully continue this to the next board meeting next month.
Okay, so
Whenever the next one is.
can you hand that to Officer Gasson, let him take a look at it, and then, Officer, if you could pass that down from the city clerk so that the chairman and I can look at that. While he's doing that, I just want to board, this is what we call a motion for continuance in the legal field. The motion for continuance can be given by the board if you want to do that, based upon whatever argument's being made, and then you can pass it down. You also have the opportunity, if you're not interested in continuing it, to hear the case. Frankly,
Don't get to look at it.
if you could just pass it down, we're going to go ahead and take a look at it together. So, I'm just going to read it out loud so that everybody can hear it at the same time. It's dated November the 9th. It's from Attorney Jerry Theophilopoulos. It's directed to the Code Enforcement Board of Tarpon Springs City Hall. The reference is Olympic Investments Group, LLC. Underneath that, it says location has a colon, 218 North Pinellas Avenue, Tarpon Springs, Florida, 34689. Then it says, to whom it may concern, please be advised that we are representing Olympic Investments Group LLC with regard to the above referenced matter. Due to conflicts on my calendar, I'm unable to be present for today's hearing, November 9, 2017. It would be appreciated if you would reschedule this hearing for the next code board hearing and provide our office with hearing notice. Please contact me if you have any questions, and it lists his phone number. Thank you for your cooperation and assistance in this matter, and it's signed very truly yours, Jerry Theophilopoulos. So I guess let's find out from the city. Officer Gasson, do you have any objection to the continuance that's being requested?
I do, primarily because the case was started back in October, and the date of the letter is today. He had prior notice and could have easily contacted our office, and we could have avoided all of this. And I feel that this is a last-minute effort to basically just move on with a case that he's well aware of.
Okay, Madam Chair, under your rules of procedure, and I'm just going to go ahead and pull those out and read it so that you understand what needs to be done on these types of things. I would believe your rules provide that you, as the chairman of the board, get to make that decision. And that is correct under Rule 4, Section 4 of the Rules of Procedure. It reads, the chair shall have the authority to decide all points of order and run all hearings. This authority shall include the duty to decide all objections and other evidentiary matters that may arise during the hearing. Any ruling by the chair may be reversed by a majority vote of the board. So you've heard the presentation by Mr. Patsalides. You've heard the city's position. Then you need to make a decision based on those, whether or not you're going to grant the continuance or whether you're going to move forward with the case.
Under the directions of what Officer Gasson and the city had to say, I think we need to move forward with this.
So then the motion for continuance would be denied?
Correct.
Okay, Mr. Patsalides, are you ready to proceed with your case then?
I am not, sir. The attorney has all the exhibits and all the records, and just to make it clear that he was in court today, he was prepared to come today. He was in Pasco and he was in Pinellas, and he just couldn't get back here in time for the code board. So he was prepared to come, so it isn't a last minute, and he ordered he asked his secretary to prepare a letter to document that he wasn't going to be able to be here, and that's why I picked it up on the way to the code board today, and that's why it's dated today, so he could provide something to the board so that they could see that he actually had a conflict.
Okay, so Mr. Patsalides, the motion for continuance was denied, so the city is going to go ahead and proceed. You'll still have the opportunity to cross-examine, to present any...
I'm not prepared, sir.
Okay.
I don't have any evidence. I don't have any, my attorney has it all. So I'm just going to walk out then. I can't defend myself. The attorney has all the information.
Okay, I wouldn't suggest that you walk out because you still have the opportunity to testify, but... So, Madam Chair, we would just move forward since the motion's been denied. Officer Gasson should proceed.
Yes. Go ahead, Officer Gasson.
All right, thank you. Case number 17-800000604. The property address is 218 North Pinellas Avenue. This is an interesting case because it deals with Mr. Patsalides and his companies and his wife that own numerous properties in the city. So he's a repeat violator under two different cases, one of them being a case that was heard last month before the board, also when Mr. Patsalides didn't have his attorney present for that one either. The first case is case 16-387, which is the address 1401 Burnt Oak. That was where 8-40 was found and established under that case. There were two other violations as well, but they're not applicable to this case. The second one is 17-569, which is 385 Whitcomb Boulevard, which was another 840 and 852, and that case was heard by this board last month. And there is another case regarding 40.00, which is 201 North Pinellas Avenue, and I will have to get you the case number in just a second. It was a 2015 case. I believe it's 2015-56, where the property, 201 North Pinellas, which is owned by Mr. Patsalides, had a violation of 8-40, or I'm sorry, 40.00, which is abandoned vehicles. So moving forward.
Hang on a second,
Yes, sir.
Officer.
Yeah.
We need to know which ones. Mr. Patsalides is not Olympic Investments Group LLC. That's a separate legal entity. So I just want to make sure before we move forward on the repeat violation ones that it was against Olympic Investments Group LLC. Because
No, it was against him himself, and he is the title manager for that company.
yeah, it's a separate legal entity.
Okay.
So for the purposes of this hearing, then you need to treat it, since it was not, because remember the repeat violation, it requires the same violator within the same code and the 5-year period of time. So if it was Mr. Patsalides in his individual capacity that was here before and cited, it's not the same as Olympic Investments Group LLC, even though he may have been a manager or maybe still be a manager.
Okay.
So we need to treat them then as initial violations and not repeat moving forward.
That's fine.
Okay,
Then,
okay.
making that easy, then it's case 17-800000604, the property owner, Olympic Investments Group LLC, 218 North Pinellas Avenue. Exhibit number 1 going before the board are all the photographs to include the inspections. Exhibit number 2 are all the notices to include the notice of violation and notice of hearings. Exhibit number 3, the admin docs, including the case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector records. And exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. Exhibit number 5 is the affidavit of prosecution costs. So to get this correct, then Mr. Patsalides has, what's his standing then with the company?
He's testified that he is one of the, I guess, the manager or partner of the LLC.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's a good question. Now, before we move forward, you've now testified as to exhibits 1 through 5, correct?
Yes, sir. I have.
Okay. So, Mr. Patsalides, on behalf of the LLC, do you have any objection to those documents that have going to be tendered into evidence? Have you seen them yet? Okay.
Yes, sir. I've got them back at my chair.
Okay.
there.
You have any objection to them being received into evidence?
Yes, sir, I do.
What's the legal objection?
They were all taken by trespassing on my property without my permission, and at the last code board, I raised the same issue with Officer Gasson, that he did not have the right to trespass on my property, and it appears that he's done it again without my permission or consent.
So, Officer Gasson, so that we can resolve the evidence issue, do you have anything that you want to tell the board in response to his claim that you've trespassed on the property?
Yes, sir. When I pulled up, I took some photographs from the sidewalk, and there was a gentleman coming out. I asked, "Are you a resident?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Do you mind if I come on the property?" It's an apartment complex with a public parking lot. I walked into that public parking lot after one of the tenants gave me permission to be on the property, and I took some of the photographs. A number of the photographs were taken from the street. Primarily the photographs that were taken today that are entered into evidence were all taken from the right-of-way, and none of which were, because there wasn't a resident there for me to ask to go onto the property at the time. Again, as I stated last month, I have a good camera, and it zooms in fairly well, so it's easy for me to take pictures from the right-of-way, and that's not trespassing in the state of Florida.
Okay, so based upon that, Mr. Patsalides, do you have any other legal objections other than the one that you just raised?
Yes, sir.
What's
I
the
do.
other?
I have a video, and I also talked to the two people, 2 tenants that were in that picture, and they did not give Officer Gasson permission to come on the property.
Okay, so Madam Chair, you need to make a decision as to whether or not you want to receive those documents into evidence over the objection of Mr. Patsalides, or you're going to sustain his objection and not allow any of these pieces of evidence. And I think that he's just, at this point, just arguing that it's the photographs that he is objecting to. So I would think that other than the photographs, there's no objection. You should receive into evidence exhibits 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then as to exhibit 1, you have to decide whether or not you're going to sustain his objection or you're going to overrule it. Sustaining it means you agree with them. Overruling it means that you don't agree with them.
Agree with him or agree with?
With Mr. Patsalides.
I want to allow the photographs to go into evidence, but is there one particular one?
No, it's, you've answered that then. So, Mr. Patsalides, your objection has been overruled. The documents and the photographs will come into evidence. Your objection's noted, though, for the record. Okay. So I don't have any other questions for you, so.
I'm sorry? Oh, the only other issue just to bring before the board before we move on, there's an affidavit of prosecution costs which will not be considered because this is not a repeat violator case.
It's a good point. So, Madam Chair, you would only be receiving in evidence 1 through 4 then. Is that acceptable to you?
Yes.
Okay. So we can start the documents down the dais when you're done there. Okay. Back to Officer Gasson and his testimony.
Originally, this complaint came in on October 6, 2017. It was called in with the address next door, but the description of the issue were boats, the inoperable vehicles that were on the property. It was fairly obvious at that point in time that it wasn't the address to the south, that it was 218 North Pinellas, the address in question that we were here before. There are 2 boats on the property which appear inoperable, and one's being stored on concrete blocks. The lot was overgrown. There was a red Jaguar and a green, possibly a Plymouth on the lot, which appeared inoperable and without current tags. Notice of hearing, notice of violation was mailed on October 9th, 2017. On November 1st, conducted a reinspection. The Jaguar and green car both have covers on them, which is not permissible under the code. Furthermore, that discussion had actually come up between this code board and Mr. Patsalides a couple of years ago, where under the code you're required to have it in a fully enclosed structure, and car covers do not satisfy that requirement. October 28th, posted the property, and an affidavit of posting was signed. Conducted the final inspection, as I stated today, at about 9 o'clock this morning. All of those photographs were taken from the right-of-way, both to the directly to the west side from the sidewalk. So that's why there's a limited number of those photographs, because I couldn't see the back area. I took one photograph from the sidewalk to the property to the north, which shows the back of the boat, which was on the north side. You could tell from the street that the property has been mowed and mostly maintained. So before the board right now appears to be the violation of 40.00, which deals with the red Jaguar, the green car under the cover, and then the issue with the boats under 852, which, as the definition I gave in a previous case, they're not operable and they appear to be just basically unused equipment. And those are the only violations other than going along with 840, which falls under 852, but those are in compliance. So 2 violations of 40.00, 1 violation of 8-52. And that's all I have for the board at this time. I will add one more thing, though, that we did get the UPS tracking number, and we did not get any return documents signed back, and which is atypical. Mr. Patsalides had no contact with him.
I'm a little confused on which violations are still in force. I'm sorry.
40.00 twice, and 8-52. Those are the only ones. Everything else is in compliance.
Does he have questions?
Questions at this point?
Anybody have any questions of Officer Gasson?
Cross-examination. So, Mr. Patsalides, do you have any questions of Officer Gasson about his testimony?
Sure, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Gasson,
Can you move closer to the microphone or bring it closer to you? Thank you.
Officer Gasson, could you please describe the location of one of the boats? Or let me just state something and please tell me if it's correct or not. One of the boats, which is on a trailer, is parked behind the apartment building, which this property, which 218 is. It's an apartment building. Cannot be seen from the street in any manner unless you go to the backyard of the apartment building, and then you can see it. You've taken photographs of that boat, and you show vines growing on that boat. How could you do that without trespassing on the property?
I previously explained that to you, sir. And once again, as I stated, there's two sets of photographs. There was a set taken today, and there was a set taken on October 7th. The set
I'm
taken
talking
today,
about October 7th, when you
Right.
took the original pictures that
as
you
I
now...
stated, I asked somebody coming out of the building, do you live here? They stated yes. I said, can I come on the property? They had no problem. Again, it's a public parking lot as well because it is open to the street and your complex. I'm answering your question, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Do you have the authority to ask a tenant to trespass on my property? Is that legal?
Yes.
You quote me what section?
No,
of
sir,
the-
I cannot. Not right now.
Okay. So you can ask anybody, and they can give you permission to walk into an apartment. So if there was a tenant there, and the owner wasn't there, and an occupant was there, a visitor, and you knocked on the door, and you asked them if you could come in, if they were the owners, and they told you, no, I'm visiting, and you asked them if they could come in, you're telling me that you're authorized to go into that apartment?
I'd have a very short career in law enforcement if we weren't allowed into people's apartments without asking owners. Because most owners of apartment complexes aren't there. They're tenants. They're not owners. So the fact is, I asked him, are you a tenant here? He stated yes. I'm not going to cross-examine him as to the where or the whats. I said, do you have any problem with me coming on this property, taking some pictures? No problem. And it was done. And like I said, 25 years of law enforcement, we don't ask owners of buildings, especially apartment buildings, and hunt them down and find them so we can do our job. So no, I can't give you the statute under 901, I think is the trespassing statute, but I'd have to look it up.
You know me very well, don't you, sir?
No, actually, I don't know you very well.
Okay, you know me from past contacts.
Yes.
Okay. You could have called me and asked me for permission to go on the property, or you could have called me and told me what the issues were, but you chose not to. Is
I
that
don't
correct?
have to.
No, you don't have to,
Mhm.
but you trespassed on the property.
Again, we've covered that, and I didn't trespass. So, and then we go back again to the photographs taken on November 9th, which were from the right-of-way. So even if
Okay, Officer
there's
Gasson,
an issue
I'm
you
going to
have.
ask you again. You state you asked somebody.
Mhm.
I've got video from video cameras showing you pulled up into the property in your car. You got out of the car, and you didn't ask anybody anything, and you immediately went to the back of the lot and started taking pictures.
Mhm.
I can provide that video
Okay.
To impeach your testimony, sir.
How about the part where I was out front of the property? Does your video camera cover
You
that?
pulled your car in, sir.
What
You
road was
drove
I
in
on?
from the street. I've got 3 cameras, and I've got you caught on all 3 cameras. You didn't talk to anybody.
Mr.
And then I
Petzolidis?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Questions? Do you have any other questions of Officer Gasson? We need to move along. Any other questions? You can, you know this routine. You're going to have your opportunity to tell us whatever you want to tell us about whatever he did right or wrong. The question,
I would appreciate going back, and I have some issues, or I have some things there in my folder that I
sure,
may
go ahead and grab your
ask
folder
about.
and let's,
I didn't come prepared.
grab your folder and finish your questions of Officer Gasson.
Excuse me. Officer Gasson, who took the photographs of my property?
I stated I did.
Was there anybody else that did?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. When was the complaint initiated and by whom?
October 6th, and I believe it was anonymous because it came in to a different address. So let me pull that up.
anonymous.
which is the majority of our complaints. And as I stated, it was the property next door that was the original complaint, but it was
Which
impossible.
number is that, sir?
I don't know, I have to look it up, hang on. Should have been 210 North Pinellas Avenue. So, I will pull that case up. So 210 North Pinellas Avenue. The initial complaint was dilapidated fence and abandoned cars on the property. I stated there's no violation at this property, is next door at 218 North Pinellas, which has the violations. So this shows the complainant. It just says citizen complainant, doesn't have a name. No complainant name. It was
Okay.
taken in the office.
All right. The Jaguar and the boat that you are talking about that you can see from, I guess, the parking lot.
Or the street.
Pardon me?
The street.
From the street?
Yes, sir.
What property is that on?
218 North Pinellas.
Speak up.
218 North Pinellas, 218 North Pinellas, it appears.
What would you say if I told you that the boat and the Jaguar are in the property located at 210 North Pinellas?
I'd say
The
you're
property line puts them both on 210 North Pinellas and not 218.
I'd say you're the property owner of 210 and not Olympic Investment Groups, and you'd be a repeat violator. That's what I would tell you.
Yes, sir, but you charged for 218 North Pinellas, not 210.
I'd be more than happy to
So
take
I'd
that
move
off and
to
cite you under
dismiss
the
the
other one.
charge based on you faulty charging the wrong address.
Well, I don't have your survey to see. I'm looking at an aerial image, so it's
You
your
go on the
discussion.
property appraiser's records if you said you referred to them to
I
get
am.
the proper address.
But
The
it doesn't
property
show your
appraiser
vehicles.
has the actual schematic and the actual drawing of where the property lines are.
Correct.
for
Mr.
each address.
Patsalides, questions. You have your opportunity to speak in a little bit, but can you ask your cross-examination, then you'll put on your case and make whatever motions or things that you want to say at that time. We're trying to get through cross-examination. You have any other cross-examination of Officer Gasson, please?
Yes. What did you see at 218 North Pinellas?
The boat, the Jaguar, the green Plymouth, and the other boat that's on the north side that's visible also from the right of way.
Okay. So you think it's
And the
all-
overgrown lot.
You think all of those items are at 218 North Pinellas?
Well, up until your discussion was just brought up now, which might require some scrutiny, the other ones definitely are. Unless you're contending your parking lot is all 210 and not 218.
Most of it is, yes, sir.
Okay. The boat would still be, the northern boat is still clearly on 218 according to the aerial.
The one behind the apartment building that you can't see
Well,
from the
I
street.
submitted a picture from the street, sir. You can see it.
The one on 218?
Yes, sir.
No, sir. It's completely behind the apartment building. The one you can see is at 210.
Right there.
May I see that? I don't know what you're looking at.
You've already accepted it, but you have the color one?
Here, I've got it. Just show me which one he's referring to, please.
It's the,
Officer Gaston,
it's like the fourth one from the end. Yes, ma'am.
let me see the one that you've submitted to evidence.
Yeah, they're the same, they're in the same order.
This is the one I'm referring to. This is behind the apartment building, the first page of Exhibit 1.
Just want to make sure he's looking. Give me that.
Is it? Hold on. You gave me all that.
Yes, I did.
Other questions, Mr. Patsalides?
As soon as I see what he's referring to.
Okay.
No, I can't. That's from somebody else's property. You trespassed on somebody else's property to do that. That's from the side yard of somebody else's property.
You're testifying again. I need you to finish your
Oh.
question, sir. Any other questions of Officer
Yes.
Gasson? Okay.
Exhibit 1, page 1.
Mhm.
How can you see that boat from the street?
Well, I told you. I didn't see that one from the street. The picture I showed you that she just pointed out was the one taken from the street.
No, it wasn't taken from the street.
Sir, I'm not going
There's
to
a
argue with
fence
you.
there,
I've
sir.
testified where I took the picture from. You're not satisfied with that. I can't help you.
Okay.
I'm telling you
there's-
where I took it from.
There's a fence there. Show me where the street is, please, on that picture.
I was standing at the corner on the street, and the interesting thing about this, I specifically did this because I figured you would try to raise this argument again. So I specifically took all of my photographs today because I did not have someone that gave me consent to go on the property today. I specifically took them from the sidewalk on Pinellas Avenue on the east side of the road. And I have a Zoom camera, and I can't change that story. The answer
No.
will be the same.
Picture that you took today, show me in that picture where that fence is, that shows where that picture that, is it Beth?
Okay, Mr.
That
Patzalides,
Beth just showed me.
if I
Show
have
me
to-
where the fence is in that picture.
The
please.
fence, right here. Right here, we talked about
That's not a wooden fence, that's a metal fence, sir.
It's a fence.
Yeah, but the picture depicts a wooden fence. Where did you take that picture
But I'm
from?
north of the property. I explained where I took the picture in the front of 228 North Pinellas Avenue, which is that little building on the north side of your northern parking lot. I'm sorry, the north side of Olympic Investments Group, LLC's
From
northern
their
parking
parking lot, correct?
lot. Sir, I was on the sidewalk. You have to understand something, Mr.
Can't
Patzalides.
see anything behind the apartment building.
He's
from the street.
testifying, Mr. Patzalides, and now you're testifying.
That's what I saw through the zoom lens of my camera.
Okay,
I have-
we can't have the arguing back and forth. Once you finish your questions, you'll present your case, and then we can move on.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you done? Cross-examination?
How many other complaints did you receive that day, besides mine?
I don't have any idea.
And what's that?
I have no idea. I don't keep track of that.
Well, was it more than one?
Sir, I don't know the answer to that question.
All right, what records do you keep regarding the complaints you handle with documented compliance compared to punitive action taken by your office?
Okay, Mr. Patzalides, that was not anything to do with the questions. You can cross-examine on what he has testified. He has not testified to any of that. It's outside the line of direct. So you know how this works. So do you have any other cross-examination?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. So now, Madam Chair, I'm sorry I had to keep trying to keep some direction here. Any other questions of the board for Officer Gasson now that you've heard the cross-examination? If not, Mr. Patzalides, now is your time to present whatever evidence that you'd like to present to the board about the case.
Well, first of all, I'm very disappointed that you didn't allow this to continue so my attorney could represent me appropriately. I wasn't prepared to represent myself today. And it wasn't a repeat violation as was pointed out, so there was no rush in fines or anything else to allow this to go to the next board hearing where I could be properly represented. I'd like to present an exhibit to Officer Gasson or to the board, and I've highlighted a section in here and I can read it. It's regarding automobiles, but it's from the Tarpon Springs Code Enforcement Office, and it says, obtain a current tag for the car parked in the backyard or removed from the property. Then it says, you may also cover it with a fitted cover made especially for the make model of the car. Tarps are not allowed.
Okay,
So-
can you pass that over to Officer Gasson and let him take a look at that if you're going to tender it into evidence? You do want to tender it, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Officer Gasson, after you've had an opportunity to review that, do you have any objections?
It was a prior code enforcement officer, and it's not what's defined in the code, which he actually even included with his evidence. It was what Cindy Sander did at the time, and there was a particular set of reasons why that was permitted during that time frame. So I have no objection to it, but there is a reason why that was stated by Inspector Sander, not by me.
Okay, so Madam Chair, there's no objection to you, so you should receive it into evidence and give it whatever probative
Yes,
value
we'll
you think
receive
is
those into
appropriate.
evidence, Secretary.
Okay, what's next, Mr. Patzalides?
Any other
Well,
statements?
I'm finished asking him questions, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, I would like the board to please allow me some additional time to take care of whatever other issues Officer Gasson has identified, so that everything can be cleared up. I'm a cooperative, compliant person. All somebody has to do is tell me what needs to be done, and I'll do it.
How much time do you need, sir?
Pardon me?
How much time do you think you need to bring it into compliance?
If in fact I have to remove those boats, I have to find a place for them. I think if you give me, they're not easy to find a home for. If you give me 2 months, I'll have all that done. And keep in mind that they're behind the apartment building, so at least the one is, and the other one's on the other address.
Anything else that you wanted to tell the board?
No, sir.
Okay, summary by the city then?
Yes, sir, thank you. All right, in regards to one boat and the red Jaguar, I'll remove those violations from the board for out of consideration. Even in the aerial image, the boat and the car appear to be there on the property at 210 North Pinellas Avenue. So they're not on 218. The property line goes right down, a little bit down the middle of the parking lot. We could split hairs and say the green car is on both properties. The front end of the car is on 218 and the rear end of the car is on 210. So I'll leave that one still on here. The boat is actually in the aerial image. According to Pinellas County property appraisers, you can clearly see it on 218 North Pinellas. So regardless of any of the other photographs, the boat's on a satellite image that was taken and posted in public record. So basically at this point, Mr. Patsalides has had discussions with this board. He brought the issue of car covers up 2 years ago in 2015 when we had the issue at 201 North Pinellas Avenue, which as a matter of fact, I think had 3 or 4 cars. And he brought the same argument forward about the car covers. The discussion was brought up about a completely enclosed structure. So the fact that he produced a letter from 2013 from Cindy Sanner where she allowed him to do that is a moot point. The ordinance doesn't allow that. It's not an ordinance. That was a exception she made. So regarding that, so basically at this point, you can clearly see from the photograph, even if you do not consider any of the ones that were taken in October, the boat is still there both on a satellite image and both on a photograph taken from the public right away, which is unused equipment. And even in the satellite image seems to be covered by trees. So it would be under 852. The green car, which a photograph was taken from the parking lot and from the, with the car cover on it, is on the property at 218. So I'd like the board to consider right now a violation of 40.00 and a violation of 8-52 for the property at 218 North Pinellas, and we'll open a case on 210 North Pinellas that hopefully we can go forward with. Another interesting point with Mr. Patsalides that he brought up at the last code board and alluded to today about me contacting him, the boat and the green Jaguar were contacted through Jerry T. I had a phone conversation. I said, can you ask Harry to get rid of the boat and the Jaguar? And this occurred, I don't know the exact dates, but it's been more than a year ago. The photographs online show the car and the boat. So 60 days for something that's been there for a large number of years, we're playing with semantics and things like that here. So at this point, I'd like the board to consider the 40.001 charge and the 8-52 only for 218 North Pinellas Avenue.
Now he gets to summarize now. Mr. Patsalides, your summary?
I'm glad Officer Gasson brought up that Jerry T., he contacted Jerry T. because last month when I was here at the board and reminded him that he had agreed to contact my attorney before sending any violations, he couldn't remember. This time he just said that he contacted Jerry T. Why would he contact
I said
Jerry
I
T?
had
Hold on
contact.
a second.
Sorry.
Let's just let him finish.
Sorry.
Yeah, last board, I asked him that question. He told me he didn't admit to agreeing to contact my attorney for any future violations.
Summary of today, Mr. Patsalides. We're here today, not last month.
So I'm asking the board to kindly give me some time, and I will remove everything, the boats, the cars, everything. That's what I'm requesting. If you would be kind enough, I'd like to cooperate and put all this behind us.
Okay.
Close the public hearing now?
Yes.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing now, and we'll go for discussion of the board.
Let
motion
me
first.
let me
Oh, we have to have a
clarify that
motion
the only
first?
thing we're worried about is 8-52.
The testimony was 8-52 for the boat on 218 North Pinellas Avenue, and the green car would be 40.00 in-op vehicles. That's also been testified to be on, partially on 218 North Pinellas
So
Avenue.
we're talking about both of those.
Yeah, you're not talking about 8-40, you're not talking about 133.02. Those are
Okay,
in compliance.
okay.
Okay, I guess I need a motion first.
I'll make a motion. And this is not a repeat violator at this
No,
moment.
it is not, no.
Thank you. I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in the law that at the time of the alleged violation of sections 8-52 and 40.00 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect, the respondents were in violation thereof.
Second.
Motion and a second. Do we have discussion?
Yeah, I'll do the next one if you want me
Hold on
to.
a second.
You need a vote.
I move that the
Hold on a
respond.
second.
Whoop,
For this
Got to
one.
vote.
okay. She keeps saying second, and I keep getting confused, so.
Mrs. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Miss Wade?
Yes.
Miss Dabbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, hold on a second. Recommendations from the city now.
I'll do it, let me do it.
Hold on a second.
I move the respondent.
Hold on a second.
Officer Gasson, like your recommendation for this?
I don't have any problem with, I think Mr. Patzalita said 60 days. Unless the board has a different thing, I think 60 days and we're going to be opening a case on 210 North Pinellas, so I'm hoping that he may be able to take care of those as well and save us the trouble, although it's not
Okay.
included in the order. And then $50 a day.
Okay.
All right, motion?
My turn now?
Yes, sir.
I move the respondent shall have until January 10th to bring the property into compliance with Code Section 8-52 and 40.00, or suffer a fine of $50 a day for each day thereafter the respondents shall remain in violation of said code section.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Have a discussion? Call for the vote?
Mrs. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Miss Wade?
No.
Mrs. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Carries.
Okay, so I'm going to summarize Mr. Patsalides. Olympic Investments Group LLC has been found in violation of sections 8-52 and 40.00. The company has been told to bring the property into compliance by January the 10th of 2018,
The 18th.
or suffer a $50 a day fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I appreciate your help. Thank you very much.
Okay, on to the next one. Another repeat violator, case number 17-88, sorry, I'm gonna say it over again. 17-800000606 at 425 Wayfarer Court. And I'm not sure of the pronunciation. Anyone here representing? Okay. Okay, officer.
Case 17-800000606. The address is 425 Wayfarer Court. The property owners are listed as Anastasis and Maria Papathenosis. This is a repeat violator case stemming from case 16-169, which was at 425 Wayfarer Court, a violation of 8-40 and 8-52. Currently, this property is still out of compliance, and the starting date was October 12th of this year. Exhibit number 1 going before the board are all the photographs, including the inspections. Exhibit number 2 are all of my notices to include the notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3 is my administrative docs to include the case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector's records. The exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. Exhibit number 5 is the affidavit of prosecution costs. All of the notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collectors Database. All the notice of violations and notice of hearing were sent certified return receipt as well as first-class mail. And, Madam Chairman, if you would please accept all these exhibits into the record as evidence once they've made their way.
Yes, sir.
This case began on October 9th of this year, stemming from a citizen complaint. October 12th, they conducted the first inspection. The citizen complaint was regarding a tree that had fallen post-storm onto their property. I noticed there's a tree on the north side of the building that's fallen from Irma. There's a couple other broken trees and damaged trees on the property that I could see. Those trees need to be cleared. The FEMA cleanup had already occurred on the street. By the time I did the inspection, it had picked up the debris from the rest of the houses. And part of that tree on that property is on the neighbor's fence, damaging it currently. On October 12th of this year, the notice of hearing was mailed, certified, and return receipt requested. October 28th, the sign was posted, and an affidavit of posting was completed. The green card notice of hearing was returned undeliverable, and the first class returned unable to forward. We've had no contact with the owner. And at this point, basically, I'd like the board to consider violation of 8-40 and 8-52 of the city ordinance.
Board have any questions? Anything else, Officer Gasson?
No, ma'am.
Have
I
a
will.
motion?
Want me
You have a
to?
question or a motion?
Oh, no question. No, I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
Okay. I move that based on testimony, evidence, facts presented in law, that the respondent was in violation of section 8-40 and 8-52 of the Tarpon Springs Code from 10/12/2017, until such time as the property is brought in compliance, a fine of $50 per day shall be imposed until compliance is met. In addition, I move that the city be awarded $61.50 for the costs it incurred in prosecuting the case.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Call for a vote?
Mrs. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Miss Wade,
Yes.
excuse me, Miss Dabbs,
Yes.
and Miss Archer. Thank you.
Did on that one, right? Yep. The next case, repeat violator with new violations. Case number 17-800000618 at 39 West Oakwood Annexy Group LLC.
Thank you. And Miss Annexie is here.
Emmett, if you could state your name, please,
Mary Annexie.
and what's your relationship to Annexi Group LLC?
I own it,
Okay.
my little company.
Have you had the opportunity to review the exhibits that the city is going to tender into evidence?
Yes, I do, and I want to say, first of all, Beth is lovely, and all the code enforcement people are really very nice people.
Do you have any
And
objections?
I have a problem, I call her and she helps me out. And I do have an objection as a repeat violator, because the first violation,
Okay, hang on a second.
Oh, okay.
We need to deal with the evidence first. So what is your legal objection to the evidence? You may not agree with the documents, but I want to know what your legal objection is. For example, relevance, authenticity, something like that. Do you have any of those legal objections?
the legal objection is, I was issued as a repeat violator when at 199 Grand Boulevard, August 8th, the man was gone, August 4th it was sent to me. He was gone the last day of July. It was empty, and I rented it to the manager of Wendy's, my little apartment.
Okay,
And
that's not a
this
legal.
is wrong.
That's not a legal objection. You just disagree with the document itself. So
Absolutely, it's incorrect.
okay, you'll have your opportunity to go through that in a second.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair,
And
there's no.
also, when Officer Gasson came, he pulled up in his truck. and
Okay,
was
hold
like-
on a second.
Oh.
You're testifying now. We're just dealing with the documents right now. So
39 West Oakwood, right?
yes, that's what we're dealing
Okay.
with. So There being no legal objection, Madam Chair, I'd suggest that you move those into evidence, and then she can, Mrs. Annexi can, explain her disagreements with them
Okay.
when she gets her opportunity.
Take those in evidence, please.
Okay, so we let Mr. Gasson.
Mr. Gasson?
All right. Case number 17-800000618 is at 39 West Oakwood Street. The Annexi Group LLC is the property owner. It's a repeat violator for 8-40 only. There's other violations on this property, but 8-40 was established under case 17-481 at 199 Grand Boulevard, which is also owned by the Annexi Group LLC. Basically, for the one violation of 8-40 that I'll be discussing, it's out of compliance from October 18th to the current date today. It was still out of compliance today when I checked it. Moving forward, exhibit number 1 going around are all of the photos to include the inspections. Exhibit number 2 are all notices to include the notice of violation and notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3 are my administrative docs, including the case summary and the property appraiser and tax collector records and any emails. Exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. All of the photographs and exhibits that were given to the violator are exact copies of what is being presented to the board. All notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and the tax collector databases. All notice of violation and the notice of hearings are sent certified return receipt as well as first-class mail. And, Madam Chairman, please accept all these exhibits into the record as evidence once they've made their rounds.
Yes, sir.
This case started on October 18th, as I stated, based on a citizen complaint from a neighbor regarding the property at 39 West Oakwood being overgrown, front and rear. Trees are encroaching onto the sidewalk out front. There was a pile of debris in the rear. There was also a blue Camaro with expired tags, which expired in 2016. While I was there, Mary came on scene. I advised her. We had a discussion about the repeat violator status from 199 Grand, which was a code board case that I think was heard last month or the prior month. I advised her we're going to be sending her the notice of violation and the notice of hearing. And she had 10 days to get rid of the car out back, which she did very expeditiously. It was gone within a few days. So that violation's not before the board at this time, other than to be established, but she is in compliance at this point. As I stated, I spoke to Mary about her violations. She stated she was going to cut the grass that day, and advised her that because of 8-40 being on the other property, that the daily fines had begun at that point. On October 18th, the notice of violation, notice of hearing, and the repeat notice of hearing was mailed certified and first class. Received a phone call stating the property was ready for inspection on the 18th. It would be ready on the 19th. On the 20th, I conducted a reinspection. There's still trash on the property and unused equipment. There was a gym out front. The grass was overgrown in the rear and the east side of the property. There was also an old pallet thrown up on top of the grass on the south side of the property. On October 25th, Mary made a visit into the office. She was shown pictures of the property by the clerk. October 28th, I posted the property and an affidavit was signed. On November 8th, Mary came into the office again to let us know she will take care of the workout bench from the front view, and the property should be ready for reinspection. I did conduct a reinspection today. It should be noted that basically all the stuff is stacked out on the curb, and we're in a kind of an interesting situation that the fall cleanup is to occur this Sunday. So she was advised by the office that if all those things are picked up, she would be in compliance. But as of today, they're still out there, and I don't know what may or may not be picked up by the fall cleanup. Also around back, there's a pile of yard waste. Fall cleanup doesn't pick up yard waste, and the FEMA cleanup's already occurred in that area. So that pile of yard waste in the back appears to still be in violation as well.
It's not my yard waste. It's the neighbor next door. It is not mine. The girl had many trees, and she's like a few feet over on my side, and she can barely get into her backyard, and I didn't say anything. I'm not that kind of a neighbor. Some of the branches are...
Aaron, you gotta let him finish.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Okay.
was just trying to tell him that, about the...
As I stated, I've had contact with the owner. I conducted the final inspection. So based under the 840, which is the repeat violator, and 852, which tags along with that. 852 is a new case to be established. The 40.00 is to be established, but it is in compliance. That car is gone. and there's no other issues with it. But I would like the board to consider the violation of 8-40 as a repeat violator, and it's still not in compliance as of this date, and that's stemming from the previous case I mentioned. 8-52 and 40.00 are, one is in compliance, the 40.00, and the other one, 8-52, is not in compliance as of yet. It's dependent upon that pickup that hopefully will occur. And then the debris in the backyard, regardless of if it's the neighbor's debris, it's on her property. So unfortunately, it does need to be cleaned up by Mary, or in whatever means she finds necessary to do it. And at this point, I have nothing further.
Questions from the board for Officer Gaston? Questions?
Cross-examination now.
Okay, do you have any questions for Officer Gaston?
Yes, I do. First of all, the neighbor, after the storm, the other neighbors piled it up on this debris in the back.
Questions, ma'am?
That isn't mine.
This
And
is an
what-
Exie.
What do I do? Do I ask the neighbor to move it? Is that what I'm supposed to do? It's not my debris at all.
Is that your question to Officer Gasson?
Yes, that pallet, somebody dropped there, which I got rid of that.
Questions
Yes.
only, questions
All
at
right,
this
well,
point.
that's my question, and also my question
Oh,
is.
hold on a second, let me answer it.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the question?
The question was, is Mrs. Annexi responsible for cleaning up the debris that some other neighbor left on her property?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay, what's your next question?
Mostly on hers. There's just a few feet on mine. So do I have can I just tell her she needs to move it to her side? A few more feet to the right? Is that what I tell her?
If she'll do it, that's great. And then it's her problem. If she won't do it, it's on your property, and you're currently drawing fines because of it.
Next
All right.
question?
Yes, the next question is this lady Kelly, the next door neighbor that reported me. Here's a picture of her unlicensed car that same day because the grass was a little high. And my gardener, Tom Bailey, was very sick and he couldn't do it. And I pulled up behind you that day when you were there with a new gardener, Levi, a Jamaican fellow that was kind enough to help me. We had all the equipment and we did it the same day at the apartment. It's immaculate except for the things that the city has to take on dump day, you know. And that workbench, I had a tenant inside who had a bad back and he wanted to work on it, but you said it couldn't be on the patio. They told me it'd have to be towards the back. So what we did, he didn't want it anymore, so we put it for them to take it, which is a shame. I wish somebody could use it, Salvation Army or someone take it.
Mrs. Annexi, you're testifying again. Questions of Officer Gasson?
Question is, why did I get called on the car when this woman had no tag on hers?
She was cited, and she moved it. It's gone.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions?
Exactly the same as you.
Well, yes, this is a question. On the side of the house, this picture that's enclosed, you know, partly enclosed, the former tenant had left some televisions there and her things. I finally was able to get hold of her, and she told me they were no good, just to throw them. She didn't want them.
Mrs. Annexi,
So-
questions?
That's the question. I've done it. Why am I being fined anything? It's immaculate, the whole place. I don't understand what I'm being fined for. Did you go and look?
Okay, ma'am, as I stated at the beginning,
Yeah.
you have a pile of yard waste in the back.
Oh,
in
that's the
alley.
only one? All right.
Okay, and you have a pile of debris out front on the right-of-way, which we're assuming may get picked up on the 12th as part of the fall cleanup. But if it's not all picked up, then it's your responsibility to take care of that. They may not pick it all up. So, as of right now, you are not in compliance with those codes.
You mean to tell me on debris day, they might not pick it up?
It is possible they may not pick up aspects. They do not pick up yard waste. And if I remember correctly, I think you had 2 shopping carts full of palm fronds. And I have the odd feeling they're not going to get picked up.
I thought that was taken off the property, those things. Somebody put it in a basket. That's not my basket. I don't steal baskets from stores. I don't understand this because I thought FEMA was supposed to take the debris of the neighbors next door. Or is it Tarpon that takes the debris from the storm, or who, you know, the landscaping waste?
They don't pick up in the alleys. All that's in the alley.
And all the
FEMA
other
didn't go down
neighbors
the
in the back
alleys.
piled it on that girl too, I was
Ma'am,
told.
I don't know what to tell you. FEMA's completed their pickup in that area.
Oh, so I'll have to tell the neighbor they won't pick it up. She's got to get rid of it then.
That's up
Is
to
that
you,
what I
ma'am.
do?
That's up to you.
All right.
You're drawing daily fines because of it, so whatever motivation you have to get rid of it, it's solely up to you.
I thought.
Any
see,
other questions, Mrs.
I
Nexi?
don't think that's fair because I thought that FEMA was supposed to take it, so why am I charged daily on somebody else's stuff?
Okay. Any other questions for Officer Gasson?
No.
Yeah, okay. So now is your opportunity to present to the board anything you want the board to hear.
I am not a repeat violator because when he came to 199 Grand Boulevard, this guy, Zeke McCahey, I don't know how to pronounce his name, was gone. He was not there. He's out, and it's been rented. I told you the little manager at Matt Daniels at Wendy's, a very nice young man I rented a house to off of 54 before, and he wanted to be closer to Tarpon because they transferred him here.
Madam Chairman,
And-
I would object the relevancy. This was established
Oh,
by this board
you mean
already.
Go on and just.
No, but what I'm saying is I'm not a repeat violator because that man was gone. How can I be called a repeat violator when he was gone 4 or 5 days before I got the first notice? I don't understand that.
Okay, that's a different case, Mrs. Anexi. That was last month. You're here on this case.
But
You-
how do I correct that one? Because it keeps.
That's not an issue today. We're trying to get through 10 more cases here today.
all right.
So we're trying to keep you on track here. So if you have any other defenses or any other documents or anything else that you want the board to hear before they close the public hearing, anything else you want us to hear?
What are you charging me a day? The property is spotless with the exception.
They haven't
of
not
that
established
debris.
that yet. So
right.
that's, the board is gonna consider that shortly.
And I'm just going to tell the neighbor I was talked to code enforcement and she needs to get rid of it
Okay.
because it's not mine.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Is that it?
Yeah. So, does the board have any questions of Mrs. Anexi? If
Any
not,
questions?
okay. So, if you feel that you don't need a summary or this, you can move forward with, and let me just tell you, there is this is kind of a split decision here, split motion. Let me just put it that way. You'll need more than one motion because there has been alleged that there is a repeat violation of section 8-40, and then the violations of 8-52 and 40.00. Those are different violations. They're initial violations. So my suggestion for you to deal with the repeat violation first, and let's get that one out of the way, and then we can move forward with the other violations for the initial violations. So that's my suggestion. Move forward on the repeat violation issue.
I'll make a motion.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you had a question for me.
May I ask one question? How come the neighbor didn't get
I thought that
called
was
when it's
closed.
all her garbage and I'm the one
Close that
called?
part.
I don't
Mrs.
understand that.
Anexi,
Time's up.
that's- Ma'am,
Sorry.
we've closed that part of the hearing.
Oh, they
It's
don't
up to the
send
board
her a
to do
notice?
now,
They
so-
send it to me? That's
Officer Gasson,
Yes, ma'am.
I found, I'm sorry, I didn't look on there, but when were those pictures taken?
The first set of pictures, October 18th, and then October 20th, some additional ones. I didn't take any pictures from today because, as I stated, there's the one pile of debris, which you can see in the October pictures that's still out back, which Ms. Anexi's testified is partially hers, partially her neighbor's.
Uh-huh.
It's
And
not
then,
mine at all. It is not mine. It's all hers.
Okay, we've heard that.
All right.
And then there's all of everything she cleaned up from the property is on the right of way. And like I stated, Sunday is the fall cleanup, but I'm hesitant to say that it's all going to be picked up with the fall cleanup.
Right.
So
Okay.
that would be it.
I need a motion on the repeat violation.
I move that based on testimony, evidence presented in law, that the respondent was in violation of section 8-40 of the Tarpon Springs City Code from, I need help with the dates, officer, from 10/18
To present.
to
It's still
present,
Not in compliance.
11/9.
It's still not in compliance, so it'd be starting 10/18 until compliance.
Okay.
Yep.
And a fine of $50 per day shall be imposed until compliance is met. In addition, I move that the city be awarded $128 for the costs incurred in prosecuting this case.
I second that.
Can you wait till I speak to the neighbor next door? You can't do that?
No. Is there any discussion on this? Okay. Call for vote.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Ms. Wade,
Yes.
Dabbs, Mrs. Archer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now we need a motion on the other.
Yes, we need a motion on 40.00 and an 8-52.
That's not a repeat.
Initial violation, this is not a repeat.
Can you give me a few days
Hang
to
on a
get it
second.
out?
We're,
Oh,
the
all
board
right,
is
I'm
acting
sorry.
upon what's going
When
on.
do I speak?
Okay.
You tell me when I
Isn't
can.
The motion on,
There's zero complied.
That was the testimony, and so you may want to break it up, that they were in violation at the
Two
time
more
of the alleged
motions.
violation, but they're now in compliance with 40.00, but they're still in violation of 8-52. You can include that all in the same motion. Testimony was 40.00 is complied.
Okay, I'll do, first motion. I move based on testimony, evidence, facts presented, and law that at the time the alleged violations of section 8-52 and 40.00 of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect, the respondent was in violation thereof.
do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, call for vote.
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Ms. Wade,
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now we need a motion on the second motion.
I will make that as well if you would like.
Yes, sir.
I move the respondent shall have until, I didn't think this through, 11/8.
That was yesterday.
Oh, it's past that shit. 11/15, what's the date?
Today's the 9th.
9th, 11/15, to bring the property into compliance with code sections 8-52 and 40.00, or suffer a fine of $25 per day for each day thereof the respondent remains in violation of code sections.
Need a second?
Second.
Deb seconded. Okay. Any discussion? Okay, call for vote.
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Ms. Wade,
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer. Thank you.
Mr. Trask will explain to you what happened just now.
Okay, so you've been found in violation of section 8-40 of the city code. You are now accruing a fine at $50 a day starting October 18th. You also have been found to be required to pay the prosecution of that particular case at $128. So it's very important you get the property into compliance with that code section 8-40 as soon as possible. As for code sections 8-52 and 40.00, you've been given until November 15th, 2017 to bring it into compliance. Should you fail to bring it into compliance by that time, maybe a $25 a day fine. If you don't understand what has happened here today, you can talk to the Officer Gasson after the hearing or sometime tomorrow or next week, and he can explain it to you. You will be getting an order that will be issued by the city clerk, and you'll get that in about 10 days.
May I just ask one question? Can I ask the neighbor next door to get her trash removed from my property?
You can call anybody you want.
Would I get in trouble if I have my own people take it out?
That's something that you're going to need to decide on your own. We can't give you legal advice.
$50 a day. On the 18th, I had the man, it's all mowed and clean. I don't know what the problem is.
You're being charged $50 a day until those piles are removed from your property.
You're
Okay?
starting today?
The 18th of October. Okay? So it's already been running about 3 weeks.
That's
Okay.
ridiculous because it was already cleaned, and I'm one of the highest taxpayers in Tarpon Springs, and this is very wrong, property taxpayers. And I maintain my properties. It's not my fault that one of the tenants left TVs. I didn't want to steal them and throw them away.
This has nothing to do with the TVs, and we need to move on to the next case, Mrs. Annexi. They've made the board has made the ruling. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mrs. Annexi. On to the next case. So this is a repeat violator with a new violation. Case number 17-800000632 at 518 East Lime Street, Apartment A. Is there anyone here representing this
Okay.
case?
Nope.
No one's here, okay. Officer Gasson?
Thank you. This is case 17-800000632, property address 518 East Lime Street. Ann Wine or Hilarco LLC are the property owners. It's a small apartment complex in the 500 block of East Lime Street. The repeat violator stems from two cases, 16-287, which was a violation of 8-22 and 8-40, and 17-56, which was 8-22 and 8-40, two prior cases. The photographs going around are exhibit number 1. All of my notices, including my notice of hearing, are exhibit number 2. The administrative documents include the case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector records are exhibit number 3. The affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign are exhibit number 4. And exhibit number 5 is the affidavit of prosecution costs. All of my notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County property appraiser and tax collector. All my notice of violations and notice of hearing were sent, certified return receipt, as well as first-class mail. And then, Madam Chairman, please accept the exhibits into the record once they make their rounds.
Yes, thank you.
This case initially started on October 21st. It was self-initiated by me. On October 2nd, it's October 2nd was when I initiated the case, or October 21st. October 21st was also the same day I did the initial inspection and determined they were a repeat violator. There's trash and debris piled up on the property, and the lawn's not being mowed, as you can see in the photographs. On November 23rd, the notice of hearing, notice of violation, and the notice of hearing for a repeat violator were mailed first class and return receipt. Posted the property on October 28th. On November 6th, Diane from the property management called stating it was ready for reinspection. I conducted a final inspection on it today and found that the property is still not in compliance. The mail was, we didn't get any return green cards. The address, or the green card addressed to the owner, was eventually a return sign for the notice of hearing. So at this point, I'd like the board to consider the violation. 8-22 and 840 are repeat violators from the previous two cases I mentioned. 8-52 is currently not in compliance and would like the board to find the violation to be occurring as we speak. And that's all I have at this time, ma'am.
Does anyone from the board have a question for
What's
Officer
the
Gasson?
amended 11-6 on our notes? Thank you.
Anything else? Closing statement?
I have none.
Okay. We have a
We're gonna make a couple motions here, one on the new violation. I'll start that. I move based on testimony, evidence, facts presented in the law at the time of the alleged violation of section 8-52 of the code ordinance of the city of Tarpon Springs was in force and in effect, the respondent was in violation thereof.
Second.
any discussion? Call for a vote?
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes. Motion on the second?
I'll do it if you want me to.
Sure.
Let me just look at the calendar again, that's all. We used to have a printed calendar. We don't get that anymore. Come on.
It's in your packet.
Come on.
It's in your packet.
Oh, there's one. I'm getting punchy here. It's cocktail hour. Second motion, I move the respondent shall have until the 20th day of December to bring the property into compliance with code sections 8-52 or a fine of $50 per day. Each day thereafter, the respondent remains in violation of that code section.
I thought he was doing the repeat.
No, he's just doing the second half of the initial violation.
I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
Okay, second? We have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Call for vote?
Mrs. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson? Mr. Kramer?
Yes?
Mr. Weeks?
No.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Back to
Okay, now
Now we need a motion for
on
the repeats.
repeat one.
Somebody else do that. Go ahead. Have fun.
Someone want to make a motion on the repeat violation?
And do the repeat one. No?
Someone down there.
I move that based on testimony, evidence, facts presented in law, that the property at 518 East Lime Street was in violation of sections 8-22 and 8-40 of the Tarpon Springs City Code from 10/21 to the current date.
Is it still in non-compliance?
It is in non-compliance as of right now, correct?
It'd be 10/21 until it comes into compliance.
Okay?
Yeah.
Until such time the property is brought into compliance, and a fine of $100 a day shall be imposed till the compliance is met. In addition, I move that the city be awarded $128 for the costs it incurred in prosecuting the case.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for vote?
Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Miss Wade,
Yes.
Miss Dabbs,
No.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes.
Can I please have the exhibits?
Let's ask. Yeah. Madam Chairman, I gotta make you aware of something. There's apparently a 6 o'clock meeting in here, so what we have left is the affidavit of compliance and non-compliances, and then we have one issue that we are definitely gonna have to hear this month, which is that foreclosure issue. It's solely your choice if you think we can get through all of them, or we can postpone the affidavits until next month and just deal with foreclosure.
My suggestion is that we deal with these people that are here in the audience so that we at least take care of them. And then if we ran out of time, then we can continue the rest of the stuff. So who is the first person in line as we go through here?
I don't know who's here for, I know Mr. Warren would be here for public comments.
Oh, public comments. He's on public comments. Okay. And the other two gentlemen? What cases are you here on, sir? Boyer, East Boyer.
Yeah, number 19 on the docket.
Oh,
Okay, sir, what case are you here on? You're not, you're just watching what's going on? Okay, all right. So maybe what we can do is that we can go through all of the affidavits of compliance at one time and then get them taken care of.
Compliance or non-compliance, sir, I'm sorry.
Affidavits of compliance?
Yes, sir.
So maybe someone could read them all at once. Oh, no, we got prosecution costs too, don't we? We're gonna
sir.
need to do them separately. So, Madam Chair, can we just start with 19 so we can take care of this gentleman here?
yes. Okay.
No prosecution costs on that one. So we just need a motion to approve that one.
Okay, case number 17-800000143 at 316 East Boyer Street, Apartment A. That's with the EM Real Estate Development LLC. Did you want to, what's the gentleman?
Yeah, he doesn't need to speak, though. You just need a motion to accept the affidavit of compliance.
Well, you want me to do these like I always used to? No?
No, because
Okay.
there are prosecution costs that we have to deal with. So this is the only one without prosecution costs.
Okay.
So a motion just to accept the affidavit of compliance.
I move that we accept the affidavit of compliance in case number 17-800000143.
We have a second
Second.
Okay.
discussion? Vote.
Mrs. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Kramer,
Yeah.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Miss Wade,
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes.
Okay, so that one's done, sir. The property's been found in compliance. There's nothing else that you need to do at this point. So, Madam Chair, since Mr. Warren is here, are you going to be talking about your case or things in general, Mr. Warren? Yes, sir, you are in compliance. All right, so Madam Chair, why don't we, since they've been waiting all this time, Mr. Warren, why don't you step down here then? We'll consider you under public comment. And then, please don't talk about your case though, because that's got to come back next month. Thank you for waiting.
I'd like to apologize to the board.
Have a seat and talk into the mic, please.
Yeah, so we can hear you.
I just want to clear the air, and I thank y'all from having me in compliance. I took care of the problem on my property. I want to say to Officer Steve Gatson, I should have answered your question. I'm sorry from saying the thing I say to you. I found out you're a straight hitter, and you got a job to do. All you got a job to do. And I had was out of order, and I'm apologizing to the board. I got a good son here. If I embarrass anybody, I'm trying to raise a good son. And thank you, Officer Gasson. You done me a favor. I didn't realize my property was that big. But I physically took care of it myself with the help of my son. But thank you. I'm in compliance. And I want to say to my neighbor, thank her she was my son's teacher. And I'm doing it for the record. And Mr. Gassett is not racist. He's doing his job. And people need to realize that you got a job to do. You got a job to do. And thank y'all very much.
Well, thank you.
I hope y'all accept my apology. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Okay, Madam Chair, I mean, we could move through these cases pretty quickly since there's no one else here in the audience. Normally on affidavits of non-compliance, we give the opportunity to anyone in the audience as to whether they're in compliance or not. So we could go through them. Have all the affidavits been tendered? She's got them now? Beth's got them?
Yeah,
Can you just go ahead and tender them down through all of them at one time? And then, Madam Chair, if we could just do each case at a time, accepting the affidavit of non-compliance and establishing prosecution costs, we could move through them pretty
They have to
quickly.
be voted.
Yeah, non-compliance first.
Each one has to be voted on.
Yes.
You have to do each one separately?
Yes, because the prosecution costs are
Or
different for each one.
different, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, case number 17-800000318, 417 Lincoln Avenue, Alfred and Hazel Quarterman. Officer Gass, what do we
It's
do?
an affidavit of non-compliance. I don't have any.
So what do we do?
So we need a motion to
A motion,
accept
we
the
pass
affidavit
it,
of
we
non-compliance.
Excuse me, let him talk, so I could understand Mr. Trask.
We just need a motion to accept the affidavit of non-compliance and award prosecution costs of $179.
So they just go ahead and vote on it.
And then, once that's made, we can just vote on it.
I move to accept the affidavit of noncompliance in case 17-800000318 and to accept the prosecution costs of $179.
Okay. Good.
You want me to keep going? I'll do
No,
these.
we need a second, and then we need to vote on each one of them.
Need a second?
Okay. Mr. Robinson, down here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then, roll
Any
call.
discussion? Roll call.
Okay. Mrs. Norflit?
Yes?
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes?
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes. Case number 17-800000372, 315 East Tarpon Avenue, Wanda and John Hubble.
I move we accept that affidavit of non-compliance and we accept the prosecution costs of $223.50.
Need a second?
Second.
Call for vote?
Mrs. Norfleet?
Yes?
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Miss Wade,
Yes.
Miss Dabbs,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer.
Yes. Case number 17-800000407, VL between 640 and 644 Bay Shore, George Carter.
I move we accept the that affidavit of compliance,
Non-compliance.
Hmm?
Non-compliance.
affidavit of non-compliance, I'm sorry. And we award the prosecution costs of $232.
Second. Call for vote?
Miss Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson, Mr.
Yes.
Kramer, Mr. Robinson?
He said yes.
Yes, thank you, I'm sorry. Mr. Kramer, yes. Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Miss Wade?
Yes.
Miss Dabbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Case number 17-800000435 at 724 North Avenue, Rebecca Ford.
I move we accept that affidavit of non-compliance and accept the prosecution costs of $221.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Roll call.
Roll call?
Mrs. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Miss Wade?
Yes.
Miss Dabbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes. Case number 17-800000521 at 1722 Grand Central, Denise St. Mary.
I move we accept the affidavit of that affidavit of non-compliance and the, prosecution costs are missing.
There isn't any in there.
There aren't any.
There aren't any. I move we accept that affidavit. Second?
Second? Need a second?
Thank you.
Down here.
Ready?
Call?
Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Miss Wade?
Yes.
Miss Dabbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes. Case number 17-800000536 at 107 East Park Street, Limnos Construction and Invest.
I move we accept that affidavit of non-compliance and the prosecution costs of $155.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? Call for vote?
Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Miss Wade?
Yes.
Miss Dabbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Okay, Beth, do we have the affidavits of compliance? Okay. So if you could submit those, and we can go through the same process on these affidavits.
Yep.
And they have prosecution costs as well.
Yep.
Okay, case number 17-800000313 at 319 Hope Street.
Good.
Does that,
I move we accept the affidavit of compliance on that case and the prosecution costs of $163.
second?
Need a second?
Second.
Call for vote?
Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Miss Wade?
Yes.
Miss Dabbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes. Case number 17-800000468, VL across from 538 Cedar, Stanley and Demetrius Kavoris.
I move we accept the affidavit of compliance and the prosecution costs of $192.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for vote?
No.
Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Miss Wade?
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Dabbs and Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Case number 17-800000484, VL north of 501 Triplet, Mary Crockett.
I move we accept that affidavit of compliance and the prosecution costs of $192.
Second.
Call for vote?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Norfleet?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Miss Wade?
Yes.
Miss Dabbs?
Yes.
Miss Archer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Case number 17-800000521, 1722 Grand Central, Denise St. Mary.
I move we accept that affidavit of compliance and the prosecution costs of $194.50.
Second.
Call for a vote?
Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next, we have the last item, item number 24, foreclosure of code enforcement lien at 1717 Mandalay Drive. And there is a memo in the packet that you've received. Although you haven't seen one of these in a long time, the city wants to move forward. They're asking for your authority to foreclose this property. As you know, under the Florida Statute, Chapter 162, the city has to wait 90 days after recording of a code violation before you can bring foreclosure action. In this particular case, the city has waited well longer than the 90 days. Under the statute and under the city's code, they have to come to you to ask for your authority to foreclose the lien. It will then ultimately go to the city commission for their authority to foreclose the lien. And even though you haven't seen one of these recently, I can tell you that I handle lots and lots of these for other cities. It's a matter of standard course for the city to move forward on this. It's not out of the ordinary. In fact, when I was at Code Enforcement in Dunedin yesterday, we did 8 of these. So it happens quite often. It's just that the city has at its wit's end on this particular property, as noted in the memorandum that you've received from the police department. So they're asking for your authority to foreclose. So what you would need to do is either to have a motion to approve that foreclosure or not. So
I'll make that motion.
no, that's not going to happen today, ma'am. Today is for the board to determine whether or not that they're going to move forward with authority to foreclose. They're not going to hear your case all over again, and they're not going to hear your defenses. And this is not your opportunity to address that with with this board. Now is the opportunity for the city to get before this board. And it's the only way that they can do that because of the Sunshine Law. So if you want to tell the board who you are and the reasons why you don't believe that it should be foreclosed, we'll give you the opportunity to do that, but we're not going to go through this case again. So what do you want to do? Step over there.
And she hasn't been sworn either.
Yeah, we need to swear you in.
Would you please
I,
state?
Hold on a second. Stand up, raise your right hand, and be sworn under oath.
Stand up, hon.
It's okay. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
yes.
Thank you very much. You state
Okay. Are you the owner of the property?
No, I'm the daughter.
What's your name?
Melody Marsh.
Okay. Who's the owner of the property?
My mother,
What's her name?
Lisa Kang.
Okay. And where's your mother today?
In Hong Kong, I have a power attorney I gave to Major Troll. Today is my first time in front of the board to tell the story because I never been informed about the situation. And I realized that on July 17, talk to Barbara. That's my first time to know about that. I didn't know I had $500 or $100 a day, and that's why I'm here and try to work so hard with Major Troll. I talked to city manager. They said they would never foreclose the property because in that 9-year term, he never foreclosed the property. If somebody doesn't know the situation that shouldn't be foreclosed, they should let me have a chance to correct any information. I bring all my evidence.
This is not an evidentiary hearing, Ms. Marsh. This is a discussion with the code board and the city staff relative to moving forward on the foreclosure.
And that's why I need to explain the reason why I cannot move forward, because I've been here, been 3 months. When I know about it in July 17, I came here in August 7, and I start to work very hard daily. I meet more than 50 architects, structural engineer, demolition company, including landscaping and nursery. And I do everything I can to try to work with the city. But every plan I submit, they disagreed. They said the grass is overgrown. They said I have some piling there, but the piling never been the issue. My mother owned the property since 2006, December. Never paid tax late in 1 day. Never cut the lawn. The lawn always maintained, always have the lawn cut.
never have an issue until last year in 16, because I go through a very difficult domestic violence issue. I have police report. I can show you everything I bring here. I even have all the long.
We're not going through that, ma'am. We are not going to do that. So weren't you here when the Code Enforcement Board heard it the first time?
Yes, this
Okay.
is my first time.
No, this is not your first time.
Yeah.
You were here at the Code Enforcement Board hearing several months ago when the decision was made.
No, I
then?
came to the city. I came August 7th. When I arrived city of Tarpon Spring, I know about the situation in July 17 because I never received any communication. So I tried to set up the meeting to meet with Captain Chief Coaching. He said that he's not going to meet with me until the whole board member do my favorite. They said you need to go there to explain to them why you didn't receive any communication. And he said, if the co-board member in your favor, I will meet with you. That was August 8th. Immediately, I went to talk to the city manager, and the city manager, he's very good person. He's the only person willing to listen my side of the story. He even mentioned in his 9-year term working in the Tarpon Spring, he never ever foreclosed any property except one. So he even tell me, if you doesn't know, you never receive any communication, it's no reason to prosecute you. Also, he mentioned, if you doesn't know and you never come to the hearing, you shouldn't be fined. So he asking Major Troll to help me out the whole situation. So from that, the city
I'm going to stop you. Is the property in compliance today?
Yes, the grass is being cut.
Have the pilings been removed from the property?
The piling, Major Troll give me an option.
I have a simple question for you. Have the pilings been removed from the property?
He give me option to put landscaping. So I give him all this option. I can show all board member about all I planned. I give him multiple landscaping option. And he come up for 63 tree. I have to put 63 tree on my lot. He never answer me direct question. Why he would put 63 tree with a vacant lot? And this property never been have piling issue. And I even have letter
Okay,
from
Mrs. Marsh, we're going to stop right here. We're not going to revisit this case all over again. This is the Code Enforcement Board, and they're making decisions relative to a suggestion that they move forward with the foreclosure. If you get to some point with the city and want to come to a resolution of your issues with the city, you can do that. But that's not what this board is going to decide today. They're going to decide whether or not that they're going to move forward with the foreclosure, because after all this time, you have not brought the property, or your mother has not brought the property in compliance.
No, my mom.
So I'm going to stop you right there.
I let you know, I've been compliant from day one. I have multiple landscaping.
Okay, we're not going to go through that. We're not going through that. We're not going through that. And you need to hand these photographs back to me, please.
Sorry.
We're not going to do that. This case is still open and pending. Please hand them all back to me.
I have all my evidence to show I've been compliant.
This is not an evidentiary hearing. You need to step over there if you want to be on the microphone. Okay, so Madam Chairman, at this point, I'm going to suggest to you that you consider the memo that has been proposed to you by Officer Gasson. If you have additional questions of Officer Gasson or Major Trill is here as well today. But otherwise, the motion would be either to approve the foreclosure process or not.
I hope the board member can give me a chance to listen my side of the story and see all my evidence. My mother owned the
Mrs. Marsh,
property.
hang on a second, okay? We're trying to run this meeting. You're not running the meeting, okay? So,
Okay. Officer Gasson, Sergeant
Major Trill.
Sorry. Trill, is there anything that you'd like to say about this?
He's got to be sworn in.
No, I'm so sorry, sir. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give us the whole truth, nothing but the truth? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you don't have to say anything if you don't want to. This is your opportunity to address it. The property is not in
It is
compliance?
not in compliance.
Okay. So, Madam
He
Chairman.
gave me the plan to do the landscaping.
I'll make a motion as minutes you want me to.
Okay, so now is the opportune time to make that motion. Ms. Marsh has had the opportunity to address the board. You've heard that the property is not in compliance. This is just one more step in getting the property in compliance.
I make a motion on case number 16-800000292 that the code board approve the foreclosure as requested.
Need a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a question. Does foreclosure mean the city owns it? What does it mean?
All right, that's a very, very good question. No. What it means is that at this point, if the motion is approved, it will go to the city commission, and the city commission will make a decision whether or not that the foreclosure action will actually be filed. It's a lawsuit. It's filed in the circuit court, and it's basically like a mortgage foreclosure action. The owner of the property will be served with the lawsuit, and she'll have 20 days in which to respond and raise any defenses that she has. Once it goes through its complete process and it goes to trial or summary judgment hearing, an order will be entered by the circuit court judge basically saying that the property owner needs to pay all of the outstanding fines on the property. And if she fails to pay it, then the property will be sold at a judicial sale. It used to be that those sales took place on the courthouse steps. Now it's all done by electronically on the internet. And so they would take bids over the internet for that property. If nobody bids on it, more than likely the city will bid on the property. They'll take ownership of it. They'll bring the property into compliance, and then it will probably be sold as surplus property. But any third party can buy the property at the judicial sale. If someone else purchases it, one of the first things that will happen is that you'll see an immediate case being opened by the Code Enforcement Department alleging the same violations, so that owner will be forced to bring this property into compliance. So that's kind of the process that it goes through. And the process will take about 6 months from beginning to end if there are no affirmative defenses that are raised or if there are no appeals. If any of those occur, it could take a little bit longer. But the goal here is compliance, and it obviously hasn't been reached at this point.
I try to comply every single day. I meet more than 50 architects, structural engineer.
Ma'am?
They find me about the column and the grass. The grass never been violation. I even have witnesses
Ms.
go
Marsh,
there.
there
And
is
the
a motion
piling.
before the board at this time. They've got a motion on the floor. They are discussing amongst themselves, and then they will make a decision.
They should
The-
allow me to present my case to be fair.
There
If
is no
somebody-
case to present. This is not an evidentiary hearing, okay? It is
Why
not.
the city manager told me I should come here and tell why the co-enforcement Barbara told me I should come here and explain the whole situation, and the board member will hear my side of the story. My mother is compliant. The grass has been cut. The first day when I came here, I meet the city manager in August 10, the grass cut. I have picture before and after.
Heard it
And
all. We need to stop, okay? We're done listening at this point. There's a motion on the floor, and
The
there's a second, and
column,
there's
if
a
the column
discussion.
no other option,
Madam
I
Chairman, at
wish
this
all
point-
the board member allow me to
Harsh,
hear.
if you don't stop, we're going to have you removed from the room, okay? We need to finish the hearing. So,
There's no other discussion. I'm going to call for a vote.
Okay. Ms. Norfleet,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Weeks?
Yeah.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
okay, so, Ms. Marsh, you understand at this point, the board has made a decision to move it to the next step. It will go to the city commission for consideration for authority to foreclose on the code enforcement lien. My advice to you is to continue to work to bring the property into compliance as quickly as possible.
So
And then, once you do that, you can contact either Major Trill or Officer Gasson to tell them that you're in compliance, and then that will probably stop what is happening right now,
the
okay?
problem is I try to work with Major Troll and gas, and you provide wrong information and poisoning Major Troll's head and city manager. As I talked to city manager very clearly in the office, he
My suggestion
understands
is
the whole
that you get a
situation.
lawyer to help you make your presentations, because obviously, Whatever you're doing is not being helpful to your case, so hire a lawyer and have that person get you through this process.
I wish the board member allow me to build a house, which is the piling there when my parents bought that property.
Mrs. Marsh,
So-
we're done. We're done with the hearing. Okay, we're done.
So why Barbara told me on July
We're
17th?
done with the hearing. So, Madam Chair, we need to move on with the approval of the minutes. We've got two sections, September 21 and October 12th minutes for your consideration.
So you mean if today,
Done.
I have
We're
a
done.
question, I
No,
have a question, so,
You'll have to go outside now, we're done.
so if the
We're done.
piling being cut
Madam
down, is it compliant right away?
Take care of it? Yeah, thanks.
Whoever,
No, I didn't.
need approval on the minutes for, I don't even have that on, in front of me.
Yeah, we've got motion, we need a motion for the minutes. They're right here.
That's hers.
They're in the back of that packet.
Do we have a motion for the minutes?
Not
to
yet.
accept?
Here we go.
Sorry, I missed it.
I need a motion to accept the minutes, the Code Enforcement Board minutes of October 12th, 2017.
21st. 21st.
October, just 12th.
Oh, you're right.
And, oh, that's September.
Yeah.
September 21st and October 12th.
That's right.
I second the motion.
We need a motion.
I make the motion, we approve those minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We need a vote on it.
Need a vote.
Mrs. Norflet?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Kramer? Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade? Ms. Stabbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to, I know we're at the end, thank goodness. I want to welcome all the new board members.
Oh, my God.
And-
They've got the, we've never had a meeting like this before, okay? It doesn't go
know.
like this, so.
Welcome.
Oh, yes, we have, every month, every month.
We need dinner brought in next time. I want to thank you for the opportunity of being the chairman. I came in on a wing and a prayer, and thank you, Mr. Trask, for all your help today. So we will close code enforcement meeting at 5:40.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Welcome. Welcome, I like your style. I've been on this board 9 years now. I just resigned a little while ago, but I'm back.
I didn't know that.
Welcome, thank you, I like your style, keep it up.
I didn't know that, that's why I was trying.
All right, I've got to get to my next commission meeting. It starts at 6 and quit the meeting. I'm not gonna make it.
I attended one a few months ago, and this is not even.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.